West Denver. Sleep deprived and heavily caffeinated.
All right, let's do this then.
This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
I don't understand what
agree with that.
They don't always agree, but hey, at least they have coffee.
Coffee.
And each other.
I love you, man.
God help us.
I want to bless him. We need all the help we can get.
Now here's Jeff Hunt and Bill Thorpe. The Jeff and Bill Show on News Talk 710 KNUS.
It is 6 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Wednesday, May 7th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt. Now, typically, Bill Thorpe would be here, but Billy's out celebrating his birthday today. Like, happy 21st birthday to Bill Thorpe.
21 years gloriously old. Are you kidding me? Right on.
Right. At least in his heart, Bill Thorpe is 21. And so he's out, but joining me live in studio is Tori Goodall. Good morning, Tori. Thanks for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Thanks, Jeff. I'm so happy to be here. Just feel blessed to be a part of this.
Well, it's bright and early for you. Now, you may know the last name, Goodall. That comes from Jason, Heidi Goodall, and Heidi ran for governor. She's well known. Of course, everybody knows Heidi Goodall. Jason Goodall with GQ Barbecue at Park Meadows, at the stadiums. Best barbecue in town, by the way.
Just opened a new restaurant this week up in Thornton.
Did he?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my goodness. He's very busy.
Yes. Not quite as busy as my mom, but
Right. That's very true.
it takes a village.
And mom recovering, doing well these days?
Mom is recovering. She's getting back on her feet. Surgery went well. Everything was a success. So we are so lucky.
I'm glad to hear that. Tori Goodall's with Rocky Mountain Voice. Tell us about your role with Rocky Mountain Voice.
So I'm kind of a jack of all trades these days. When my mom stepped out for her surgery, I stepped in a little bit more. So you might recognize me from the Mountain Minute podcast. We've been kind of blown up on social media lately. But I really head all of marketing, communications. I write, I do the show. I kind of do it all. So it's been super fun.
That's awesome. That's Tori Goodall. She's going to join us for all 4 hours today. We've got an absolutely jam-packed show for you. Lauren Boebert's going to join us in the 7 o'clock hour. Benito Kelly of Westward has written a great piece on what happened to all the Venezuelan encampments. He's going to join us live in studio in the 8 o'clock hour. We're going to talk trans Jesus. Yes, because one of the lawmakers down at the Colorado State Capitol says that's who he worships. Trans Jesus. And then we'll get here in a second to the Alien and Enemies Act. Charlotte Sweeney, the judge behind that one. You may know the name because Charlotte Sweeney is also trying to force pornographic books into kids' schools out in Elizabeth. She's a real winner of a judge, and she came down with a decision yesterday saying Donald Trump can't use the Alien Enemies Act anymore to deport cartel illegal immigrants. So, lots to talk about, but now is time for your morning dose of news and comment with Blake Olson.
John, can you press the... There we go. Hey, good morning.
We're all running this morning.
We're ready to go. I think John will find the right one. John's in for Billy, so all the buttons have to line up correctly. Hey, it's 44 and drizzly in Denver, expecting a high of 56 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, an early morning fire at a home in the Washington, Virginia Vale neighborhood in Denver has killed 2 people. It's an area just east of Glendale. The fire is out, and the investigation is underway.
The world has been coming to the U.S., and China has been the missing piece. I was going to be in Switzerland to negotiate with the Swiss. Turns out the Chinese team is traveling through Europe.
No way. Well, looky. Looks like China wants to negotiate. Hey, Scott Besson's already going overseas, so China wants to hook up start the process.
And they will be in Switzerland also. So we will meet on Saturday and Sunday. And look, we have shared interest that this isn't sustainable, as I said before, especially on the Chinese side. And 145%, 125% is the equivalent of an embargo. We don't want to decouple. What we want is fair trade.
But without further ado, the art of the deal. I don't do it for the money. I've got enough, much more than I'll ever need. I do it to do it. Deals are my art form. Other people paint beautifully on canvas or write wonderful poetry. I like making deals, preferably big deals. That's how I get my kicks.
Yes. And for the second straight day, here's
That's how I get
my
my kicks.
Yeah, no doubt, man.
Watching Trump do his deals.
Why not? I think that's a good way to do it. Hey, for the second straight day, here's my favorite buddy, Mike Pence.
He said that cheap goods was not a part of the American dream. Well, I'm somebody who spent almost my entire life in public service. We lived on our paycheck while we raised 3 kids and put 3 kids through college. Cheap goods are a big part of it. And I think we ought to be candid about that.
I think we ought to be candid about the fact that you're lucky you were vice president. You're a complete bore and exactly the type of politician that real conservatives don't want. Phony, interested in yourself and your hair. Someone needs to just mess up your hair. God, that dude, man. He and your boy Romney.
All right. I love how he's always my boy.
Yeah, I know, man. I'm sorry.
You'll never know. It's hilarious.
It's going to stick with you for life.
Did I ever tell you about the Bikers for Trump rally I spoke at?
No. Oh, I think so, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
so
Go
I'm
ahead.
probably the only guy in America that worked for Mitt Romney and has spoken at a Bikers for Trump rally.
That's right.
And they introduced me at the rally. Ladies and gentlemen, former Mitt Romney staffer, Jeff Hunt. And I turned to the guy and I was like, I'm going to get shanked. I'm not going to get out of this thing alive. You introducing me that way. All right, so I got to tell you my Mike Pence story real quick. Okay. So Mike had been nominated or picked by Trump, whatever, in 2016. And he hosted a fundraiser here in Denver, and I got invited to it, so I go there. Now, if you remember, Pence was not great on religious liberty in Indiana. Do you remember when he caved to all the corporations on that one?
Absolutely.
So I raised that. Look, I tend to be the skunk at the garden party, and I'm sitting where there's 20 of the biggest donors in Colorado sitting around this table, and I go, so how can we trust you to protect us on religious freedom when you caved as governor of Indiana?
You could hear a pin drop.
Yeah, he was not happy. I didn't get invited much back to stuff after that.
No way.
And then he never came to the summit. So.
What did he say?
Well, they stumble around that type of stuff, right? Because you couldn't call them out. Well, in this administration, Jeff, don't worry, we'll be committed to religious freedom. And that was not because of Pence. It was because of Trump. Because Trump didn't care. When Pence was the lead guy, and he had to lay it all out there, and all those corporations, you remember Salesforce came down, we're not going to do business in Indiana anymore because of your commitment to religious freedom or whatever, and he caved on it.
Yes.
No. Pence didn't have the guts to see it through.
What a total disappointment. All right, let me see here. Oh, there we go. Had to throw that in there again.
Good morning.
Got a big announcement coming up.
And those days are over. Those days are over. And, I said before in our meeting with the new and very talented Prime Minister of Canada that we have some very big announcement to make. It's not about trade. It's about something else, but it's going to be a truly earth-shattering and positive development for this country and for the people of this country. And that'll take place sometime within the next few days.
Interesting. I don't know what that's going to be, but and there's a lot of news that's going to happen today. So hold on tight. It's only 6:09. Hey, if you're going to the airport today, you need a real ID, a driver's license, an official one, or an official ID or passport, just like you've had to have for 50 years, at least 24 years, not a rec center ID or a Chuck E. Cheese ID. That won't do. If you're flying to Newark, also with that ID, Jeff, expect delays. Evidently, that airport is 3 decades behind technology.
Oh, Newark's the worst one.
Yeah.
Worst airport. But I wonder, and I would love to hear from anybody that has to work in the airline industry, how much of your time is consumed by just total idiots that show up without, we were talking about this yesterday.
Yes.
They come through TSA with a grenade. Like, who shows up at an airport with a grenade
Right.
or doesn't have an ID or shows up with a Chuck E. Cheese card?
What have they been doing? Evidently, like over 80% have a real ID. Okay, I would have thought that it was 95%. Maybe not in the last 15 years with the open borders,
Right?
But that just blows me away. After everything, like you said yesterday, what we have to go through, and then there are people out there with these lame fake IDs. All right, a federal judge has granted a preliminary injunction to bar the Trump administration from removing Venezuelan immigrants in Colorado. Illegal immigrants, by the way. Charlotte Sweeney.
You all
the
need to get
district
to know
court
this
judge.
name.
Yes,
All right.
absolutely. We need to make a song.
Well,
About her.
I've been diving into who this chick is because of the Elizabeth School Board case. Because
Yeah,
that's how
that's
where
where
we
we
live, so
first
I'm paying
learned.
attention to it. Dude,
Yeah.
she, literally, in a University of Denver article, Blake,
Yeah.
says, I was an activist. I decided the best way to stop Donald Trump was to become a judge.
God. That's it. That's the only reason.
So
not for justice.
No, in 2016. All right. So here's what it says. 2016 election. She starts to get engaged. Right, for years, she had no interest in being a judge. She says Charlotte Sweeney had no interest in being a judge. Then the 2016 election. At the time, Sweeney, who grew up south of DU in the suburb of Littleton, had built a successful legal career, happily leading her own Denver-based law firm focused on employment discrimination and pay disparity cases. She was also on the board of the Matthew Shepard organization up in Wyoming.
Oh.
So LGBT kind of Q activist. But after the election, she says, Sweeney recalls she grew troubled by legal developments. I felt that rather than sit and complain about what was going on, if I had more to give, I'd better step up. It dawned on me that being a judge might be a good next step. Wow. 6 years later, in the summer of 2022, Sweeney became the first openly gay federal judge in Colorado history. When Joe Biden became president, the White House sent out a memo that was a call to action. Sweeney said for people to serve on the federal bench. Lo and behold, she adds, for the first time ever, they were looking for diverse candidates, including people with civil rights and employment background. It was just one of those slap you in the face moments. And I said, okay, I'll apply. We'll see. I wasn't sure. I believed it and kind of felt the way that way throughout the process. But here I am. So she gets angry at Donald Trump's election, throws in her hat Joe Biden looking for not quality legal scholars, but, quote, diverse candidates, elects her along with Senator Michael Bennet, John Hickenlooper. She gets through the process. Look, this has nothing to do with law. This has nothing to do with an equal reading on the law. This is everything about driving an agenda and using judges to stop Donald. It's written out right here.
Yes.
The whole point is stopping Donald Trump's agenda.
Oh, my goodness. I didn't know that background. Unbelievable. Or is it? You know, I mean, you got AG Phil Weiser. He's joining a lawsuit against the DJT administration over cuts to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. The lawsuit argues that the administration's their actions have robbed HHS of resources necessary to effectively serve the American people. Okay. All right, the conclave to select a new pope starts today. Catholic cardinals from around the world will try to find one that isn't as woke as Pope Francis was. The 47 administration says it's investigating anti-Semitic violence at the University of Washington after a group of Hamas supporters lost their minds again on Tuesday. About 30 people were arrested after taking over the school's engineering building and demand that the college cut ties with Boeing because of the aircraft company's relationship with Israel. And this morning, they're singing that Jesus is trans. Just saw that video. Man, just some great stuff today. Eyes out, ears out, craziness on this Wednesday. Hey, at least one bear is believed to be responsible for killing a man and his dog just outside of his home in southwest Florida. It's believed to be the first recorded fatal bear attack, can you believe that, involving a human in the state's history. You hear alligators and everything else in Florida, but bears, man. And there are cats down there that people don't know about.
Pythons?
Panthers and pythons. And yeah, if Billy were here, he could talk all about the snakes down there. But yeah, bear. Pretty amazing. You get in the woods down there in southwest Florida, and they're running out of land too because all those swamps, they've put the sand in and created developments and the wildlife spreading out. So that was pretty amazing. I couldn't believe that when I saw that one this morning. News brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills, locally owned and operated since 1954. Online at lairfireplacepatio.com. Nuggets tonight, game 2, second round at Oklahoma City. They'll try to up their series lead to 2-0. Can they do it again tonight? 42 in Westminster, 41 in Highlands Ranch, 43 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue without a Billy, but a special guest in studio. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
A storm system to our south will pump upslope winds into the Front Range today, tonight, and into early Wednesday, bringing more occasional chances of rain and thunder today, tonight, and tomorrow. Upper 40s and near 50 today with occasional rain, a little bit of thunder. Rain tonight, fog, lows near 40. Showers will continue Wednesday, highs near 60. Warming to the mid to upper 60s Thursday with a few showers, warmer for Friday and the weekend. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free no-obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Billy's out today celebrating his birthday, and joining me live in studios, Tori Ganal. So Tori's with Rocky Mountain Voice. Let's introduce you, Tori, to everybody. I hear are you a Colorado native?
I am Colorado, born and raised.
There you go. Where'd you go to high school?
Monarch High School up north in Louisville, Superior area.
And then took some time to go become a duck, huh?
Yes, I did. I went to the crazy world of Eugene, Oregon. I loved it. And then I lived in Portland for 4 years before coming back.
I want to talk first about your time at Eugene, because that's when you, from what I understand, became a bit of a political activist, right? Because you were serving with Turning Point and decided to run for office, and then things got crazy, right?
That was the very early Turning Point days. Charlie was just getting his feet off the ground. They had run students at 2 universities. he met my grandpa at the LPR retreat. They sat next to each other, and he was like, look, I got this daughter. She's Panhellenic president. She's conservative. And Charlie flew out to meet me the next day.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's amazing. So you were part of Turning Point at the very beginning.
Very beginning days. Yeah. The whole original Turning Point team flew out. We did a whole student body campaign, like 3 or 4 months, everyone on the ground running it. We ran against keeping Uber and Lyft in Eugene because the taxis were part of this giant, basically underground business in Eugene, Oregon. So yeah, it was a crazy time, but one of the OGs of Turning Point for sure.
And then what happened when you tried to run? You faced some interesting opposition.
I got called every name in the book. My mom was ironically running for regent at the same time. So I got plastered as a Republican right away because everyone knew she was. Everyone recognized Charlie Kirk on campus, even though it was early. And yeah, I got called a bigot and a racist and anti-this, anti-that. And we actually had to sue the university for character defamation because it was all published.
So it was coming from the school itself, not just other students.
The school newspaper.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then what happened to the lawsuit?
We settled. They took it all off the internet, thank goodness. But man, that really did activate something within me of just, this is happening all over. I mean, this was back in 2015, and I had cats in my classrooms. I had cats, quote unquote.
People like identifying as cats.
Yes, people identifying as cats.
Up in Eugene.
We had, this was 2016, so Trump was running, and we had people burning couches when he won. I mean, it was absolute chaos.
Wow. So you go from there to living in Portland for 4 years.
Yeah, why did I do that?
Because you like to be on the front lines, apparently.
Apparently.
Of all the craziness. What did you do in Portland?
I worked in IT staffing, and I lived up in Portland until my mom and I started She Factor together when I still lived there, all about women's empowerment, women in their 20s. And then COVID happened, and the whole city literally burned down. Yeah. So...
And the George Floyd protests, all that was happening in 2020. So, yeah, Portland was the epicenter. Portland used to be a nice city.
Oh, it was so gorgeous. You're 1 hour away from the beach, 1 hour away to the mountains. You've got all of the most beautiful wineries in the world, 30 minutes away. And now it's just burnt to a crisp. I mean, it's horrible. It's homeless, crime, drugs. It's a mess.
So 4 years there. COVID happens, and then your mom starts She Factor. We're talking with Tori Ganal, daughter of Heidi Ganal. And tell folks what She Factor was.
So She Factor was originally events and chapters that we started across the country. We had 25 chapters in different cities. That was basically helping women in their 20s develop a career, develop a life they love. We brought in speakers. We had these huge, beautiful Instagram-worthy events. And then when COVID happened, we moved everything online. So we had like 15,000 people attend one of our events online during COVID. So it was fun. It was a fun time.
What was the goal?
The goal was community. One, the biggest reason why women don't stay in their roles, in their jobs in their young 20s is because they don't have a sense of belonging or community. So the goal was to get women to a place where they could then move into C-level positions, but you can't do that without starting at the bottom. So we wanted to start there, move them up, help them live a life of purpose.
Very cool. Yeah. That's Tori Ganal, daughter of Heidi Ganal. Heidi then runs for governor. You watch all that up close and personal.
Yeah.
Get to experience that. What was that like?
Well, I actually came back home because I got diagnosed with Lyme disease, and I was pretty bedridden the whole beginning of the campaign.
Was that from a tick?
A tick right here in Pagosa Springs, Colorado. But Jared Polis would tell you that ticks aren't in Colorado and that you can't get Lyme disease in Colorado. He literally told that to Heidi during their first debate.
I've experienced that firsthand.
I actually can prove that that's wrong. Yeah. But yeah, so it was the beginning of the campaign. I was kind of on the sidelines, and then I went full in. I ran all of her social media for the end of the campaign, was at every event, brought my puppy, Poppy Rose, with me everywhere. It was really fun.
So your mom's this kind of serial entrepreneur, right?
Yes.
And then she's married to Jason, who's an entrepreneur itself. What's it like growing up in this family where like they literally, they have to daily be coming up with ideas and then running after them, right? They don't just think of them. They go out and build stuff.
We have a parking lot. So we literally call it a parking lot of all these ideas that everyone in the family has of next businesses that we're all going to create. We have one brewing right now that all three of us want to get in on. I don't think anyone...
they're successful businesses. Let's Camp Bow Wow, GQ Barbecue. Room for others? Because I'd like to get in on some of these ideas. You guys build good things.
Yeah, it's super fun. I mean, right now we're brewing over an idea that's so silly. I don't even want to say it out loud because we don't want anyone to take it, right? But I mean, yeah, we always joke, dogs, women, politics, barbecue. Like, you can't make this stuff up. We need a reality TV show or something.
Yeah. Seriously, that's Tori Ganal. Tori's going to be live in studio, and you're welcome to join the conversation here. I'm already reading the text messages.
Uh-oh.
Portland girls don't shave their legs.
I do.
303-696-1971. 303-696-1971 if you want to call us, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115, 720-819-5115. Hey, I want to talk to you about alarm detection systems. Reliability isn't an option when business security is on the line, and if you're a Ganal building one of those big businesses, well, of course, you need good business security. We strongly recommend alarm detection systems for the highest level of service and expertise. Think about the time you could be saving using one source for your cameras, key card access, fire and intrusion systems. ADS offers expert alarm installations and testing by highly trained technicians, 24/7 professional monitoring, same day or next day service upon request, because downtime, it's not an option. Dedicated teams for cameras, access control, and fire alarms, and over 300 security professionals working for you. Choosing ADS means your business stays protected and will be ready to open tomorrow. They combine human monitoring with the latest AI camera technology to prevent crime in real time, trusted by small and large businesses, including many Colorado businesses. Their security experts will review your system for free. All you got to do, guys, go to adsalarm.com to schedule your appointment today. That's adsalarm.com. Alarm detection systems, the first choice of Front Range and Colorado businesses, adsalarm.com. We'll continue with your phone calls and texts. You're listening to the Jeff and Tori Ganal Show on News Talk 710 KNUS. Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We are live in studio with Tori Ganal. Tori Ganal is with Rocky Mountain Voice. You may know the last name. She's Heidi Ganal's oldest daughter. Let's talk Rocky Mountain Voice.
Let's do it.
Yeah, what is Rocky Mountain Voice all about?
Rocky Mountain Voice is your unabashedly right-of-center news source here in Colorado. We're an aggregator, so we have great shows like Jeff and Bill. We have all the podcasts listed out on there. We also aggregate from different news organizations in Colorado. We like to have a little bit of a conservative edge because there's not much of that here.
Well, I don't understand why you created that. Don't we have 9 News?
Of course. Kyle Clark is the most conservative person I know.
Yeah. I was watching him yesterday. The news they were covering was a PR email sent to the city of Brighton. So they're not just progressive, they're irrelevant at this point.
Well, he went off on my mom last week for wanting to put Jared Polis in jail for all of this illegal immigrant nonsense. So,
God forbid political opponents face any type of trial. Wait, yeah, we did that all summer long.
Right, so. Exactly.
So Rocky Mountain Voice, you aggregate, you have some original content there, and how's it going?
It is blowing up. I will say we're about a year and a half in, and we're really hitting a stride right now. I think people are waking up, especially with this crazy legislature happening right now. We're really one of the only ones reporting on a lot of the stuff happening with the gun bills, the HB 1312. There's not a lot of people getting that out into the world. And so I think people are waking up and wanting more. And we also, it's citizen-led journalism. So we want people on the street reporting on what's happening in their backyard. And I think that's what makes us different than maybe a Colorado Sun or a Gazette or Kyle Clark.
Or the Denver Post or any of those other
Right,
ones.
exactly.
No, I mean, Denver Post is dying. Everybody can see that. They're becoming irrelevant, too. The Sun, everybody, I think, generally understands that's progressive. I mean, it's funded privately by progressives, so you get that sense. And so Denver Gazette's doing pretty well. I like what Luigi's doing there. But this brings in the added citizens journalism, so like him on Voice.
No paywalls. No ads, nothing. It's all free. So we love that.
That is amazing. Now you guys are bringing out Eric Trump.
Yes, we are.
Let's talk about that event.
June 21st, we have the Mountain Majesty Gala. We just announced it this week. We're going to have Eric Trump as our keynote speaker. Really just a huge gathering of conservatives celebrating the movement. We really have, despite what it looks like on the outside, made a lot of progress in the last year. We're much more organized, much more excited about the future. We had a huge win with Donald Trump getting into office. So we're going to celebrate, and Eric Trump's going to come celebrate with us. We're super excited.
You can go to RockyMountainVoice.com to buy tickets there. That's June 21st, Mountain Majesty Gala.
You got
That's
it.
Great. And there's no Western Conservative Summit this summer, so that's not my doing. That's somebody else's choice, believe me. But Mountain Majesty Gala, June 21st. Where's it at?
It's in Golden, Colorado, at the Denver Marriott West.
Fantastic. You could buy your tickets there and get to hang out with Eric Trump. Look, Colorado is becoming this center point of radical progressivism, right? And I went down to the Bernie Sanders rally, and I've been to Mitt Romney's rally at Red Rocks. I've been to your mom's rallies. I've been to Donald Trump's rallies. I hadn't seen anything that big in a long time. I think that the Bernie Sanders AOC wing is the center point of the electorate in Colorado at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, they're pulling out 30,000 people, and people run out there and go, well, they're paid, all this. Okay, I think they're probably a portion that were paid. But a lot of the people I saw there were just, if you had dropped me into it, I would have looked around and been like, I'm at a John Tesh concert. It's a lot of older people, a lot of boomers.
Really?
Yeah, that brought their little lawn chairs and were there to see
Well, that's
Bernie
because they're not
Sanders.
working.
Yeah, right. Well, they're done working. That's right. But I think they believe that the government that they had built is good, that their generation built, right? So Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. Here comes Elon Musk. Here comes Donald Trump, and they're taking chainsaws to all this stuff, right? And so they don't like that. They believe in kind of an old school guard Republican, the Bush era, that type of thing. So they don't like Donald Trump's brashness. But I wouldn't be so worried about it if they weren't constantly re-electing radical Democrats down at the Colorado State Capitol. You've been tracking all this. You watched up close and personal these elections and trying to fight back and all that stuff. Give me your take on the direction of Colorado, Tori Ganol.
Well, I think I have a unique perspective because I watched Portland burn down, and I went to Eugene, Oregon for school, and I grew up in Boulder, Colorado. So somehow I turned out okay. But I will say...
That's because you have incredible parents.
Right, I do, but not everyone does. Yeah. And I will say that most of my friends, or were friends from high school and college, are completely on the Bernie Sanders AOC line. They're Democrat socialists proudly, which is just wild to me. But I think here in Colorado, I mean, we have Faith Winter saying that HB 1312 is a crash couch for Colorado. We have gun bills that are going through that are the most restrictive in the country. And I do think that it has to get this bad before the pendulum swings again. And I mean, these Democrat senators and reps down at the state capitol, they aren't necessarily voting their district. They're voting together. And it's like this coup always of, we've got you because there's only 22 of you, or there's just not enough Republicans to stand up against us, so we're just going to do whatever we want. We don't want to listen to debate. We don't want to talk about
they're literally drunk at work. They're drunk at work watching videos. You pictured some, but Faith Winter, she's still a senator, showed up at a constituent meeting drunk.
Yeah, and they're playing Tetris on their phone, watching
There's no consequences.
TikTok. There's none. And I don't know how to wake people up to the crazy other than, I mean, we just got to report it and get it out. But
right.
I don't think your average
step, right?
Coloradan is necessarily looking at libs of TikTok on Twitter, you know?
Right. Right, and I think what's hard in my mind, and I ran a lobbying team down at the state capitol for years from a Christian. I mean, we were like literally the Christian conservative lobbyists. In our mind, we were thinking, surely, after passing these crazy laws, the people of Colorado will go, that's enough. We don't want these people in here. And then I went through election after election after election where they just keep putting them back in. My perspective, it's the schools. So we'll go down and we'll try to organize an event against a bill, let's say 1312, this radical transgender bill. We show up with pastors, we show up with people, we testify in huge numbers versus the other side, all this stuff. And at the end of the day, the Democrats do what they're going to do because they're funded by the ACLU. Voters keep putting them in. And I'm sitting there going, after years of living this nightmare over and over and over again, I go, what is it that I'm really facing here? And I'm going, it's 18 years of indoctrination.
Exactly.
So they go to government-run schools. They buy into a Marxist worldview that there's oppressors out there. They're going to need to stand on the side of the oppressed. And whatever person or group or category you put into the oppressed group, then they're going to stand with. So if it's transgender or immigrants or the Palestinians or whatever it might be, you put them in the oppressed category. Therefore, we need to stand against the oppressor, which is typically Donald Trump and the rest of them. And that train just marches along, and we're trying to fight it, and they keep it. So for me, it's really about schools. Your mom has fought to try to open charter schools. I mean, you guys have gotten the fact that it's education where we face that problem. But, I mean, 90% of kids are educated in government-run schools in Colorado.
Yes, they are. And I will tell you what, I mean, I'm on the brink of having my own kids, and I will never send them to public school. I've seen the worst of it. But I do think it starts in the schools. I also think that it stems a lot from messaging on social media. I think these kids you're labeled as, a horrible person if you believe the things that the Republican Party believes, and they don't want to be that. I mean, I think that that's a piece of it. But I do think we have this huge uproaring right now of especially young men that are coming over to the right, and they're waking up. I also think that a lot of my generation is starting to pay taxes, and they're starting to make money, and they're like, we don't want to give that away. So hopefully that will have some impact. But I do think, and shout out to the young Republicans in Colorado, I think they're the ones that are getting out all of this information about the crazy legislators at the Capitol. I mean, all the videos that have come out, like most of that has come from young Republicans.
Yeah, folks like Scott Shamblin.
Yes, Scott Shamblin.
But to your point on young men, I've thought about this too, because I've 3 young boys. My oldest was born in 2010, and I'm watching him be born into a world that considers him a really bad person.
Yeah.
Simply, I was like, what has he done? He was born in 2010. He's not even 15 years old yet. And he inherits this white men are the root of all evil, essentially, narrative that came from the left. And they're shocked that white men growing up in that don't want to be a part of it.
Right. Exactly.
Right? Like Charlie Kirk tapped into that so well, and Donald Trump did as well, that basically said, that rejected it. This said, there's not a problem with you. Because of what somebody did 250 years ago, you'd have to be labeled an oppressor.
And now we're seeing kind of that flip too with women. I mean, all of a sudden there's this huge movement of the trad wife movement, right? Like traditional wife, traditional values. Like, wait a minute, I don't have to be a girl boss. I don't have to work my butt off in order to make this huge empire, in order to, find a man. I can just get married and have kids and be happy. Like, imagine that. Whoa. So I think we're seeing it happen on both sides of men and women. But yeah, Charlie Kirk was definitely the helm of that. And I think he's done a great job at just waking kids up on these college campuses there's a different world out there than what you're hearing about.
Well, what I appreciated that he did is he went right into it. Like he landed on those college campuses.
Yep.
Almost like a military operation, right? There's landed right there.
It literally is a military operation.
Right, with all the security that's got to protect him, and then the filming and all this stuff. It's brilliant. But who you're hearing is Tori Ganal. Tori's going to be live with us in studio. You know the last name. Her mom's Heidi Ganal, but Tori, a storied career herself, leading Rocky Mountain Voice. If you go to RockyMountainVoice.com, you can be a part of what they're doing there. They've got Eric Trump coming here June 21st. So very exciting stuff happening at Rocky Mountain Voice. We'll continue our conversation with Tori Ganal. Look, are you tired of those big box store kitchen and bathroom remodels that promise savings but deliver headaches? Limited choices, hidden costs, and a cookie-cutter design. There's a better way. Discover the art of Granite, where your kitchen dreams, or where your dream kitchen or bathroom becomes a reality. Owner Mitch Floria cuts out the middleman, sourcing premium granite, quartz, marble, and more directly from his own warehouse. That means true wholesale prices and no markups. You get the exact stone you want within your budget. Mitch isn't just a supplier, he's a master craftsman. He'll transform those raw materials into stunning custom countertops. Listen to this. All you got to do, mention KNUS and receive a bathroom countertop free when you purchase your fantastic new kitchen countertops. You can also get a kitchen or bathroom sink free when you purchase any countertop package. That's right, free. All this stuff coming. All you got to do is mention KNUS, and again, you'll receive a bathroom countertop free when you purchase your new kitchen countertops. So don't settle for less. Mitch is with us on the values. He loves this country. Has a copy of the Constitution and Declaration of Independence right there in his office. So support a good guy. Support a guy that's supporting this show and experience the art of granite difference. Visit Mitch's showroom or explore his website at theartofgranite.com. That's theartofgranite.com, or call Mitch directly at 303-386-5919. Phone lines are open. Text lines are open as well. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show with Tori Ganal, filling in for Bill as he celebrates his birthday on News Talk 710 KNUS. Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Live in studio with me is Tori Ganol. You know the last name. It's Heidi's daughter. She runs now Rocky Mountain Voice, does a great job over there providing news updates. So stop listening to Channel 9. Please, for the love, stop listening to Channel 9 and go check out some alternative news sources that actually provide some information for you. Great one, RockyMountainVoice.com, RockyMountainVoice.com. So did you see this headline, Tori, that Donald Trump's sending illegal immigrants to Libya now?
Yeah. I mean, you can't get back from that. I
mean, that's kind of the point, right? Like, imagine being a legal immigrant, John, and you sneak into America and you end up in Libya.
What a dream crusher right there. That's an absolute dream crusher. But I will say this. I think if you ever seen the movie Starship Trooper, there are civilians and there's citizens. If you want to be a citizen on the fast track, then you got to serve. I think that would be a fast track. Join the military and serve. If your record from the other countries can get you into the service.
I was going to say, you got to prove that you're worthy to do that first. But
so what we're learning is that there's plenty of options, right? If you want to join and be a part of the American dream, there's options to do it. You just got to follow the rules. You can't sneak in. And what Biden allowed to happen to our country was terrible. Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, not everybody that comes in here is a criminal. Okay. But if you did, under that process, you allowed these TDA gang members to come in, and innocent Americans lost their lives. Others were raped, tortured. It was terrible stuff. And so you had to shut that down. And I think smart illegal immigrants are getting out of here.
I would.
Yeah, they're self-deporting. They're
get me out. I'll take. Well, we were talking about this a little bit. Like, I think I would take the $1,000 that Trump is offering and get out of Dodge. But you made a good point that puts you on a list, and maybe you don't want that.
Yeah.
But I mean,
anytime you end up on a government list, probably not great. But it's better than getting caught by Tom Homan.
I wouldn't want to be caught by that guy.
Right. You end up on that list?
No, thank you.
You're never coming in.
No.
So I think the smart ones are sneaking out quietly, heading back home, getting back on the other side of the border. And from what I've heard from others is they're now starting to do it the right way. They're contacting immigration attorneys. They're filling out the forms going, look, I loved working in America. I want that to be a part of my future. Okay, just follow the rules. That's all we've ever asked people to do.
I want to say it's not that hard. I'm sure it's a long, grueling process. But also it's hard to be American sometimes, too. You got to pay taxes. You got to work your way. You got to do all these things.
But everybody has gone, someone's way up the family tree did it. Mm-hmm. Whether, like, my wife's family, for instance, came across a ship. They were Dutch, had no money, started a dairy. Look, it was hard. Mm-hmm. It's going to be hard. At some point, somebody up the family tree is going to do that. Maybe that's you now, but generations from now are going to appreciate that. Yeah, it's going to be hard. Go through the process. My family just kind of emerged out of mountains in West Virginia.
I lived in Seattle for a while, and I've lived in Brooklyn, New York. And I will say this, the unsung heroes who have gone through the process. I went with a friend of mine and took some of those classes that he had to take to become an American citizen. That's some serious stuff, but if you want it, do it. If you don't want to do it, then get on down the road.
Well, and I think this Libya message, if you missed it, this is the headline coming out of Reuters. U.S. is going to deport migrants to Libya on military flights. Just a reminder, Libya is in Africa. It's northern Africa. So if you come up from Mexico, cross a border, you're going to be shipped to another continent. Can you imagine trying to get back to your family from there? This is brilliant in my mind and sends a very clear message to illegal immigrants that you try to get in here illegally, you may end up in a really bad place. So don't do it. Follow the rules. I think it's brilliant. All right, you're listening to Jeff and Bill. Bill's out today celebrating his 21st birthday. Tori Ganol is live in studio with us. That's Heidi Ganol's daughter with Rocky Mountain Voice. We'll continue. You're listening to Jeff and Bill with News Talk 710 KNUS. It's 7 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Wednesday, May 7th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, typically along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. No, Bill isn't in timeout. Some might think so after yesterday's show. We literally debated for 4 straight hours.
That was an intense show yesterday. You guys are great.
Yeah, nope, Bill's celebrating his birthday. His 21st birthday. No, I'm just kidding. I think he's 53 or something. But
53?
Yeah, 53 or 54.
Oh, man, 54. I mean, you're going to have to adore the fact he's 54, and that's just what you are. 54 years on the earth with us, and today is a day that will make a big fuss. Well, 54 is no big deal. And imagine how you feel when one of these grand old days you're sitting at your party remembering quite fondly when 54 was half your age. Happy birthday, you wonderful Bill Thorpe guy, you man. Love you, brother.
Woo! John Corbliss. Well done, man. Corbliss is a producer here, and you were singing Telegram guy for a while, weren't you?
I owned my own professional entertainment company in Seattle called Otter Entertainment.
Did it include stripping of any sort?
Well, funny you should ask. But one time, someone ordered a joke stripper. All right. I wasn't supposed to strip, so I dressed up, and thank God, because that was a whole lot of love back then. I walked in full clown, and they started playing the music, and I started taking things off, and I got down to like some long johns, and I said, "You want to see more?" And they're like, "Yes." "You want to see more?" And they're like, "Yes." And I went down into my long johns and pulled out the socks, and I said, "This is where I keep my socks warm at." And that was the end of the show.
Oh, John Corbliss, you are full of stories.
Some people say something else, but yes.
John Corbliss is a producer here at 710 KNUS. We're going to elevate the conversation now with Tori Ganal. Tori's in studio. Tori, you may know the last name, Heidi Ganal's daughter. Tori is with Rocky Mountain Voice, a great news aggregator, great place to get information that's reliable here as opposed to listening to agenda-driven drivel from Channel 9. Go to RockyMountainVoice.com and be a part of what the great work they're doing. Tori's going to be live in studio with us for the remainder of the show. She's our co-host today, so thank you for joining us, Tori.
All morning. You're stuck with me, I guess.
That's right. And we're going to be talking to Lauren Boebert here in just a second about Tina Peters, the case. You saw Donald Trump weigh in on that. And the question we were all discussing yesterday was why all of a sudden Donald Trump weighed in. Well, we think we know. It's because Lauren Boebert's been advocating on Tina's behalf, sending letters to the FBI. We'll get the insight on that. In the 8 o'clock hour, Benito Kelty is going to be joining us. He's with Westward, has a great piece on what happened to the Venezuelan migrant encampments out there. Where'd they go? Is Donald Trump's enforcement working here? So he's going to be joining us in the 8 o'clock hour. 9 o'clock hour, you might have missed this, but gosh, we sure are going to talk about it. State lawmaker talking about who he worships, trans Jesus. And they just passed a law, thou shalt not misgender. What is happening at the Colorado State Capitol? And then a really cool new website called hecheated.org. And it has nothing to do with romantic cheating. It has to do with dudes cheating by participating in women's sports. They're creating a list now. Speaking of lists you don't want to be on, that's one that I think should be a career killer.
Absolutely.
I mean,
I'm game for that.
I mean, at this point, you should be shamed. You should absolutely be shamed. If you're a guy that's going to go compete against girls, steal their scholarships, their opportunities, you're one of those bullies in my mind.
That's cowardly.
It is cowardly.
It's straight up cowardly. And to look yourself in the mirror and be proud of yourself that you earned an award or a trophy in that manner is absolutely ridiculous. And I'm sure I'll catch all sorts of stuff from a whole lot of people, but I don't care. That's cowardly.
Yeah. That's exactly right. Hecheated.org. So we've got a whole lot to talk about. But now is your time for your daily morning dose of news and comment with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Good morning. 44 drizzle in Denver on this hump day. Expecting a high of 57 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, the Fed will wrap up a 2-day meeting today with a decision on interest rates. The central bank is widely expected to hold its benchmark short-term borrowing rate steady. Today's announcement comes at noon, followed by remarks from Fed Chair Jerome Powell. Hey, if you're going to the airport today, you need an ID, maybe a driver's license or an official ID. You know, you've used one of those before the past 30 or 40, 50 years. Not your Costco card. It's crazy how that works. If you're flying to Newark, New Jersey, expect delays. Evidently, the airport there is about 30 years behind as far as technology goes. Big news, look at this. China ready to come to the table.
But without further ado, the art of the deal. I don't do it for the money. I've got enough, much more than I'll ever need.
Here's Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent.
The world has been coming to the U.S., and China has been the missing piece. I was going to be in Switzerland to negotiate with the Swiss. Turns out the Chinese team is traveling through Europe, and they will be in Switzerland also. So we will meet on Saturday and Sunday. And, look, we have shared interest that this isn't sustainable, as I said before, especially on the Chinese side. And, 145%, 125% is the equivalent of an embargo. We don't want to decouple. What we want is fair trade.
Great news. Former President... Yes.
Blake, did you see this headline coming from the Daily Caller that American manufacturers are now overwhelmed with orders after Trump's tariff crackdown on China?
Wow.
Yeah, basically these small manufacturers are scrambling to keep up with the massive increase in orders that are coming their way. That means new American jobs.
Manufacturing, man. I was so young when all this stuff was going on in the 80s and 90s, and all you hear your parents talk about everything's going to China, everything's going overseas. We don't, and it just kept on going decades and decades. And, you're just programmed to think, well, we can't do it here. We can't do that here anymore in America. I mean, it's absurd when you look back at it, how we just sold out and we just gave it all away. So exciting. Hey, and by the way, I forgot to ask you this, Jeff. Isn't it? It's pretty cool that the CEO of Ford, his last name is Farley. After we were bringing up Chris Farley, and I didn't realize that until last week. I forgot.
Gosh, what was the name of the company in that movie?
Yeah, I can't remember. I should know that. It's only my favorite movie,
right?
But I can't think of it right now. But I mean, it's just it's great that we're just talking about building factories.
Callahan Auto Parts.
Callahan,
yes,
Callahan.
Thanks to Adam, the other producer.
Callahan Auto Parts.
Nice. Who did that, John? Who said that?
Adam pulled that right out.
Adam, thank you. Man, I should have known. John.
Now,
and Adam
can you give me the motto?
Today.
Do you remember the motto?
Callahan Motors, Callahan Auto. I don't know.
No, it was the other one. They sell the brake pads too.
Oh, that's right. That's right. They have
because I'm the
working parts for the working man.
Because that's who I am. Yes,
that's right. There we go. And that's the theme of this whole thing.
Tori was too. Have you seen Tommy Boy Tori, or are you too young?
I have no idea what you guys are talking about.
Oh my goodness, Tori! You need to see that.
You
movie.
And your fiance movie night. So it's raining tonight. It's cold. Throw on Tommy Boy.
Mandatory.
And your life will be better because of it.
Amazing.
If you're a patriot, you'll watch that movie. Tommy Boy, make sure you watch it.
Tommy Boy is what Donald Trump's doing right now. He's driving around the country trying to get manufacturing going.
That is awesome.
Bear claws, two at a time, wedged right here.
Oh, man. Hey, former President Biden is trashing DJT today. He was on BBC.
Biden?
Yeah, Biden, and but who cares? It's freaking Sniffin' Joe. I mean, really, does he have any credibility? But yeah, he's trashing DJT on BBC. I didn't even know he was still alive, honestly. Last night, India launching missile strikes on Pakistan. India shot down a Pakistani JF-17 fighter jet over Kashmir, DJT, on Tuesday.
Just heard about it. I guess people knew something was going to happen based on a little bit of the past. They've been fighting for a long time. They've been fighting for many, many decades and centuries, actually, if you really think about it. No, I just hope it ends very quickly.
A federal judge has granted a preliminary injunction to bar the Trump administration from removing Venezuelan immigrants, illegal immigrants, that would be correct, illegal immigrants in Colorado accused of being TDA members. District Judge Charlotte Sweeney, who Jeff talked about earlier, hates DJT, ruled that the Alien Enemies Act could not be used because there is no war, invasion, or predatory incursion as required by the statute. Sure feels like an invasion to me. An early morning fire at a home in the Washington, Virginia Vale neighborhood in Denver has killed 2 people. It's an area just east of Glendale. The fire is out and the investigation is underway. And now time for the most idiotic story of the year.
A football fan is suing the National Football League over Shedeur Sanders' performance in the NFL Draft. Sanders was expected to be a first-round pick, but ended up going in the 5th round by the Cleveland Browns. Now the unidentified plaintiff is looking for $100 million in damages for severe emotional distress and trauma. The plaintiff is a Georgia resident who is a self-proclaimed huge fan of the Colorado Buffaloes, where Sanders led the college team to a winning season as their quarterback. He accuses the NFL of colluding to hinder Sanders' draft selection and possible racial discrimination. I'm Lee Mowen.
Oh, my God. He's a self-proclaimed CU fan, and I bet you he doesn't know the fight song. And he doesn't know any of the history previous to 3 years ago.
$100 million?
$100 million. If that isn't thrown out in the first second.
But if it goes, don't you think that maybe I can go sue the NFL for them causing the Detroit Lions to lose their playoff games by an early bye week?
Absolutely.
I can get a good $10 million out of that.
You have a good legitimate cause there. Absolutely, that's more legitimate.
I think Rockies fans can sue the Monforts, right?
Absolutely, just sue the Monforts or whoever you want for just bringing baseball to Denver, and just traumatizing yourself. God, it's so ridiculous. 41 in Brighton, 42 in Littleton, 44 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue. Blake Olson without Billy. Tori is in and John is singing Jeff's Billy's birthday
We've
song.
gone totally off the rails.
Yes, it's awesome, man. That was a great birthday song by John, by the way. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
A storm system to our south will pump upslope winds into the Front Range today, tonight, and into early Wednesday, bringing more occasional chances of rain and thunder today, tonight, and tomorrow. Upper 40s to near 50 today with occasional rain, a little bit of thunder. Rain tonight, fog, lows near 40. Showers will continue Wednesday, highs near 60. Warming to the mid to upper 60s Thursday with a few showers, warmer for Friday and the weekend. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free no-obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
All right, Bill's out today. It's his birthday. Joining us live in studios, Tori Ganal. She's one of the leaders of Rocky Mountain Voice. Go to RockyMountainVoice.com, RockyMountainVoice.com. Be a part of the great work they're doing there to bring you balanced information on what's happening in the state. So I want to bring this up because this is really important for people to understand who Charlotte Sweeney is. Okay, she's the U.S. District Judge that yesterday has granted an injunction indefinitely barring Trump's use of the Alien Enemies Act. Okay, so the Alien Enemies Act is the argument that Trump's making that we've had a foreign incursion into our land via cartel activity. And his argument, which isn't wrong, is that cartels have killed more people than any foreign invasion ever has in America. And the point of the Alien Enemies Act is to quickly allow the President of the United States to get enemies out of this country without a big, long, 12-person jury trial, right? Could you imagine every single cartel, illegal alien, MS-13, Tren de Aragua, having to have a 12-person jury trial and defendants and all that stuff, as he's pointing out, it's take 200 years to deal with all these folks. We need a quick way, get them out, valid deportation order coming from a judge. Let's get them out of here, okay? And he's not doing this for every illegal immigrant. He's doing it for those that have, in court, shown that they are members of these gangs. Well, yesterday, a judge Tuesday, Charlotte Sweeney, granted a preliminary injunction to indefinitely limit President Donald Trump's administration from deporting Venezuelan immigrants in Colorado under the Alien Enemies Act. And at times, a scathing order, the Denver Post reports, U.S. District Judge Charlotte Sweeney rejected the federal government's arguments that the courts have no jurisdiction over Trump's March proclamation invocation of the Alien Enemies Act regarding the invasion of the United States by Tren de Aragua. Federal courts and judicial review are a feature, not a defect, of this nation's constitutional structure, and simply because federal courts issue rulings unfavorable to the government is no basis standing alone to dispute their constitutional authority or power. The judge also asserted the government's arguments were, quote, nonsense and, quote, threadbare costumes for the claim that the courts have no role and only the president can decide in the conditions of the Alien Enemies Act are met. That claim staggers, Sweeney wrote. It is wrong as a master of law and attempts to read an entire provision out of the Constitution. So she's making this claim right now that Donald Trump cannot deport in Colorado under Alien Enemies Act. Okay, I want you to understand who Charlotte Sweeney is, because this is important. Do you remember this case in Elizabeth where the school board is trying to take out outright pornographic material out of the libraries, right? Somehow they got in there. Librarians weren't paying attention. They want to take out graphic, pornographic material out of these schools, okay? Charlotte Sweeney, who is an LGBTQ activist, has ordered the school board to put these books back into the library, where elementary, middle school, high school kids have this smut material. One of them, I couldn't even read on air, is a graphic depiction, sexual depiction between a father and a daughter. It's incestual. Okay? She wants this type of material in the kids' library. And she's a radical LGBTQ activist. Okay? Same judge is now forcing Donald Trump to go through an entirely long legal process with these illegal immigrant gang members, with jury trials and all that stuff, in order to deport them, even if they have a deportation order, like you saw Garcia, the guy from Maryland, the Maryland dad, that guy, okay? She wants the whole process to be done now, okay? Now, I want to point this out, because this is an article from the University of Denver. Charlotte Sweeney became a judge because of her hatred of Donald Trump. That's the person making these decisions. Guys, when we talk about the federal judiciary being compromised, about the rule of law, Democrats out there, we got to follow the rule of law. No one's above the law. Okay, the judges making these decisions are pure political leftist activists that became judges because they hated Donald Trump. Listen to this article published by the University of Denver, bragging about how one of their graduates has become a judge. Charlotte Sweeney got her degree in 1995. For years, Charlotte Sweeney had no interest in being a judge. No interest in being a judge. Then came 2016 election. What happened in the 2016 election? Oh, yeah, Donald Trump was elected. At the time, Sweeney, who grew up in south of DU in the suburb of Littleton, had built a successful legal career, happily leading her own Denver-based law firm focused on employment discrimination and pay disparity cases. That interest, she says, grew out of a class on the subject with Sturm College of Law professor. She says, it just fit where I was and what I believed and where I wanted to go. I knew how important employment is. Besides family, it's generally the second most important thing in most people's lives. Okay, so she becomes an employment lawyer. She sits on the board of the Matthew Shepard organization, which is out of Wyoming, LGBTQ organization. So she's active in LGBTQ issues. But then the article says, after the election, the 2016 election, Sweeney recalls, she grew troubled by legal developments. I felt that rather than sit and complain about what was going on, if I had more to give, I'd better step up. It dawned on me that being a judge might be a good next step. 6 years later, in the summer of 2022, Sweeney became the first openly gay federal judge in Colorado history, something she says wouldn't have been possible until recently. When Joe Biden became president, the article says, the White House sent out a memo that was, quote, a call to action for people to serve on the federal bench. Lo and behold, for the first time ever, they were looking for diverse candidates, including people with civil rights and employment backgrounds. Okay, so conservatives are making the argument that these judges right now are not acting with regards to law. They're not trying to serve in a legal capacity and interpret the law. They're actually directly interfering with cases in an effort to stop Donald Trump's agenda. You have an article right here at the University of Denver detailing how Charlotte Sweeney purposely became a judge to stop Donald Trump's agenda. And now she's not only stopping his agenda, she's forcing pornographic material into these libraries, these kids' libraries. These are activist judges, and they've got to be addressed. Well, was that the Congresswoman there, John?
No, sir. That was Stephen Tubbs calling in real quick.
Oh, nice.
He
Cool.
just said that he would love to join you on the DEA segment that you had talked to him about. Just go ahead and reach out to him, and he would love to.
We'll get him on that one. Yeah, there's some FBI developments yesterday. I thought maybe we had the Congresswoman. All right, we are going to get to her. She's coming up next. Congresswoman Lauren Boebert's going to join us. We're going to talk about a letter she penned to the DOJ asking them to look into the harsh sentencing of Tina Peters. And did that trigger Donald Trump's comments about Tina Peters and what's going to be next for her? So we got a whole lot to talk about. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show with Tori Ganal filling in for Bill Thorpe, 710 KNUS. Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Bill's out today. Joining me live in studios, Tori Ganal. That's the daughter of Heidi Ganal. She's sitting in as co-host. She's a leader of Rocky Mountain Voice. All right, so you saw that Donald Trump calling for Phil Weiser and others here in Colorado. You got to get Tina Peters out. Free Tina Peters now. She's a hostage being held in Colorado prison by the Democrats for political reasons. Well, the conversation we all had yesterday was, why did Donald Trump post that? And then lo and behold, right in the middle of the show, Lauren Boebert posts a letter she had sent from her office to the director of the FBI calling for this investigation, calling for interaction from the federal government on behalf of Tina Peters. And she joins us now to give us some insight. Representative Boebert, thanks for joining the Jeff and Bill Show.
It is great to be with y'all today. And Miss Ganal, congratulations as co-host. It is wonderful to be chatting with you as well.
Thank you so much. Good to hear from you.
So this was, in many parts, led by your office. Talk to us about the letter you sent to Kash Patel, director of the FBI, on behalf of Tina Peters.
Yes. So I had been in communications with Kash and Dan Bongino, the deputy director, since they were sworn in. But also, more than that, I certainly have been talking to President Trump about Tina Peters wasting away in a Colorado jail, given a 9-year, which is almost a life sentence, if you think about it. She's 69 years old. President Trump, on several occasions, has simply said, get her out. And obviously, Colorado has charged her with Colorado state crimes, and that makes things more difficult for President Trump to step in and issue any kind of clemency, a pardon, or anything of the sort, because the federal charges that she had received was not something she was actually convicted of. And so this is certainly something that is personal to Colorado, especially after last election season, when Secretary of State Jenna Griswold released passwords for nearly every single county in Colorado during an election, and tried to cover up the fact that she had released those passwords. She didn't even contact any county clerks to inform them that passwords had been released and were made public online. And yet Tina Peters is in jail because of the same thing. This is something that Jenna Griswold went after Tina heavy about, was one password being released online by someone else after an election. Not one vote was changed. Not one election result was changed because of Tina's actions. And yet Jenna Griswold gave the orders to have the book thrown at her, and that's exactly what this Mesa County judge did. 9-year sentence for a 69-year-old woman, a Gold Star mother, and of course we've heard the reports that she has not been treated kindly in jail. I've heard of pastors trying to go in and see her, minister to her, and they've been flat out refused by jails in Larimer County specifically. And this is to the point of cruel and unusual punishment, and in my opinion, not even allowing a minister of the cloth to come in and visit with an inmate in a jail where they would normally have access to. At least that's my understanding by this pastor. And this is something that needs to be taken care of. Of course, they're saying that they don't want the justice system weaponized, and President Trump coming in and saying, telling them what to do. But we have only seen a weaponized justice system for the past 4 years under Democrat control, and this is anything but weaponization. This is about justice and freedom. 9 years is far too long for this woman.
That's Lauren Boebert, Congresswoman from the 4th Congressional District, regarding a letter she sent to Kash Patel on behalf of Tina Peters. You have a great line in this letter. Ms. Peters' conduct did not alter any election, nor did it change even one vote. Now, you may disagree with what Tina Peters did. You may believe that she was rightly convicted, but 9 years in a state that allows child rapists to get probation. And an attorney or a secretary of state that has committed similar crimes with regards to releasing passwords, who walks free and gets to run for attorney general or governor or some other higher office that Jenna Griswold wants to be a part of. Now, Lauren Boebert, we know that the president has asked the Department of Justice to investigate the sentencing, and that investigation's moving forward. The state tried to block it. A judge said, no, we're going to move forward with that. The president clearly can't pardon because this is a state crime. Have you heard about actions that could take place? Have you heard anything from Jared Polis or Phil Weiser, or what the Department of Justice could do to further pressure the state to release Tina Peters from this political prosecution and sentencing?
Well, President Trump is not happy with the governing of the state of Colorado. That is for certain. There is already a lawsuit with 3 of our elected officials named by the federal government for the sanctuary policies in the city of Denver. Certainly, President Trump has said threatened federal funding in sanctuary cities. I'm hoping that he just starts with that city when it comes to that funding, because we are in a sanctuary state, because the same policies that make Denver a sanctuary city are actually in place at a state level as well. And we have Mesa County and Douglas County commissioners who are on a lawsuit with other counties in Colorado to sue the state over their sanctuary policies that prohibit them from coordinating with ICE agents and local law enforcement. And so these policies are statewide. And so President Trump is already not pleased with the overall politics and policies in Colorado. Federal funding has been threatened for those things. And I think that this could be another thing that ends up with federal funding being threatened because he loves justice, and he is he was actually absolutely had the federal government weaponized against him, and he has seen it weaponized against his friends and others that he knows, and certainly he will fight for justice there. In Congress, we are working on the big, beautiful bill, and I don't know, cities like Denver and maybe others might get that federal funding pulled. Larimer County, there needs to be a conversation that happens there with their jail as well. I represent Larimer County, and I don't want to see those constituents harmed by resources being taken from the federal government. And we have got to come to some sort of an agreement here. There are other things in Colorado that President Trump has been patient on. We have Space Command in Colorado Springs, and I certainly don't want him fed up with our state to the point that he does issue that executive order that he has held off on because of conversations that I've had with him. So this is very important on many different levels. I want Colorado to flourish. I want it to be a safe state. I want it to be a fair and just state. And Tina Peters is just another, at this point, victim of horrible policies in Colorado. Of course, we are number 3 in the nation for crime, number 2 in the nation for fentanyl overdoses, number 1 in the nation for carjackings. Don't worry, if you want to go somewhere far on the list, where we're about 45, 47, it's road quality. I would rather see some of those inverted, but there are a lot of things in this state that is hurting Coloradans because of bad policy. Tina Peters is a prime example of bad policies, bad weaponization of the government, and President Trump is not going to play nice with a state that behaves this way.
That's Representative Lauren Boebert fighting on behalf of Tina Peters. And I think we've got to continue to put pressure on Jared Polis. This is a decision that's got to come from the governor, from the attorney general. And this type of national pressure, and we're getting lots of text messages in on this, the president weighing in on this, you fighting on behalf of Tina Peters is fantastic at getting the word out. Like I mentioned, even if you agree with the conviction, the sentencing is way too long and clearly is a political prosecution to try to send a message coming from a very liberal state. Now, Congresswoman, we know your time is very limited. We appreciate what you've given us today. Yesterday, you had an opponent announce, Tricia Calaverse, back into running against you. This is the Democrat that challenged you during the last cycle. Ironically, Tricia never came on our show. We asked her, we invited her over and over again. She doesn't want to come talk with Jeff and Bill. Give us the reason why you should be reelected over Tricia Calaverse.
Well, Colorado's 4th district is a red district, and a Democrat is never going to win this district. I have been on the ground. I've been all throughout our 21 counties, of course, during the campaign, and now as the representative of the 4th district. I've been working hard for them, working to get even federal agencies like the Small Business Administration moved from Sanctuary City, Denver, to Douglas County. And we've been working on water storage. We've been working and fighting for our farmers and ranchers and so much more. I'm on the ground each and every day doing the work of the people. I'm not afraid if Democrats want to waste their resources. Once again, I'm happy to siphon some of those away and give Gabe Evans a better run at the 8th district, because that's a seat that we really need to be focused on.
I mean, they spend millions trying to unseat you. They did that over in Congressional District 3. It never happened. They're trying to... And 4 right now. It's why we support and really appreciate everything that you do. You're a real fighter out there. And the fact you get so much opposition against you means you're over the target. Representative Boebert, thank you for what you're doing on behalf of Tina Peters. Thank you for what you're doing on behalf of law and justice in this state, and taking time to join the Jeff and Tori Ganal show this morning.
It is wonderful to be with you, Jeff and Tori. I hope y'all have a great rest of your show, and everyone stay focused on Tina and other things that are wrong in our state, and make sure that your voice is heard. Our Republicans down at the state capitol need your help as well when there's an opportunity to testify on bad bills like the SB 3 bill, the gun bill that we saw, which is also something that I have been in communication with the DOJ, with Pam Bondi, our Attorney General, and her Second Amendment Task Force in regards to. So make sure your voice is heard for those bills that are passing, that have passed, that have been signed into law. And then, of course, those committees that are coming up, because they need your voice, your testimony at our state capitol. It's your house, Colorado. Make sure that they know that you do not want your Second Amendment infringed on. You want to protect our children, and you want Colorado to be Colorado again.
That's Congresswoman Lauren Boebert. Thank you for taking time.
Thank you.
Now, again, I've invited Trish Calaverse, her opponent, her Democrat opponent, at least running in the primary right now, to come on the Jeff and Bill show. We're a right, left, center show. I mean, Bill is no crazy right-winger. So come on the show, Trish Calaverse. We're the most popular show in your district. And she never comes on it. So thank you.
Don't be scared. Come on in.
Don't be scared. We're not going to throw things at you.
Well, not immediately, no.
All right, want to talk to you about L&L heating and air conditioning. If you woke up this morning in a house that was too cold, well, you got to work on the furnace. And in 2 days, it's going to be 80 degrees, so you're going to need that air conditioning. And we, in our house, had that breakdown, and it's a real problem, right? So get it fixed. L&L heating and air conditioning came to the Hunt House. I can tell you personally, they nailed it, got it done all in one day. So 1 day installation, no stress, personal service from start to finish. And they even followed up to make sure everything was perfect. Now our home is finally comfortable no matter what the weather. And with L&L heating and air conditioning, we get even more peace of mind. Free programmable thermostat or carbon monoxide detector with new furnace or air conditioner installation. No emergency charges. They're not going to jack up that price to come out and deal with your emergency. $0 trip fee. Price match value guarantee on equipment. Free estimates. Licensed and insured. 5-year labor warranty. Everything works great, and our family couldn't be happier. So, if you're looking for fast, honest, reliable service, I highly recommend L&L Heating and Air Conditioning, 720-851-1691. That's 720-851-1691. Online at bestdenverhvac.com. That's bestdenverhvac.com. I'm sure glad we called them. That number again, 720-851-1691. Lots of text messages on this one going, look, quit characterizing Tina Peters as a political prosecution. She was indicted by a grand jury, charged and prosecuted by a Republican DA, and sentenced by they think a Republican judge. I don't know. I don't think he's a Republican judge. But they're saying she's unrepentant, and that's why she got 9 years. Guys, 9 years. All right? Probation, maybe 30 days. We heard that yesterday. Maybe 30 days was appropriate for Tina Peters. But 9 years in a state that gives probation to child rapists. And then when Jenna Griswold breaks the same law, and the law doesn't require intent, guys. If the passwords are out there, it's a violation of law. And if Jenna Griswold's going to get nothing, no charge, not even a slap on the wrist, and she gets to run for attorney general, guys, come on, read the truth here.
The dichotomy is delusional, and a lot of that is just because people refuse to see the other side of things.
Yep.
I mean, 9 years. 9 years. I've seen guys do some pretty horrendous stuff and got way less than that.
Yep.
Yeah, you can't sit there and say that this didn't have a political smell behind it.
Well, and then you get folks that go, well, we got to send a message. We need to be very clear that you can't do this. And we don't want Tina Peters back in office. Okay. Well, she's put there by the people. So if you're concerned she's not going to be back in office, well, then there's an election. You get the people to vote on that. They get to determine that. Not you. The voters do. Okay? And to Lauren Boebert's point on this, not a single vote was ever changed. There wasn't any election fraud. You can hammer her all day, Tina Peters, on who she brought in and misrepresentation of that person. Okay, I get it. That's a fair critique. You're going to send a person to jail, a grandma with zero criminal record, and a son who died serving this country to 9 years in prison? This is political prosecution, guys. Political prosecution and sentencing. And she shouldn't be serving 9 years, and Donald Trump's exactly right on this. All right, we'll get to phone calls and texts. You're listening to the Jeff and Tori Ganal Show on News Talk 710 KNUS. Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Billy's out celebrating his birthday. Live in studio with me is Tori Ganal. She helps lead the Rocky Mountain Voice. Ganal. Yes, you know that last name. Her mom's Heidi. All right, let's go to the phone lines. Jack from Wyoming. Good morning, Jack. You're on with Jeff and Tori.
Yeah, Jeff, let me get to the core of what you're talking about. We've got a huge problem in this country. When you have an election where the people overwhelmingly vote for Donald Trump's agenda, I didn't say Donald Trump, I said his agenda. And when he goes to implement that agenda, and when these liberal judges on the county and state and federal levels try to interfere with that's a separation of powers issue, and this should not be tolerated.
You have examples like with Charlotte Sweeney, who said, I'm going to become a judge to stop Donald Trump.
Yes. Yes.
And no one elected her.
That's exactly right. But if we don't get a handle on this and call it what it actually is, and that's election fraud, because my votes are being stripped from me and everybody that voted for Donald Trump's agenda, when we get these tin horn liberal judges on all the different bench levels that think they can turn around and interfere with that. They can't. They're not allowed to do that. Nobody voted for them in the first place. So it's controlling. Donald Trump was elected, and it's controlling. His agenda is controlling. They are not allowed to interfere with that. I don't give a hoot.
And they're not making constitutional arguments. I mean, they have laid out their agenda. She became a judge to stop Donald Trump. That's what they're doing. Jack, great call from Wyoming. I appreciate it. Let's go to Barney Buena Vista up in Buny. Good morning, Barney.
Yeah, don't let me. We don't want to talk about Buena Vista the way I would talk about it. But before I go ranting and raving and you kick me off the air, I wanted to say something about Stephen Tubbs. I miss that guy, and I think he was on ABC News when I was in North Carolina. I come back to Denver, and all of a sudden he's on KOA. But I just always liked the guy. I'm sure he hated when I called him. Like, the hair would stand up on the back of his neck. But I really like the guy. I just can't help it. He's just a good guy.
He is. Absolutely.
But, by the way, Charlotte Sweeney, your name rhymes with something, your last name. You're aware of that, aren't you? That's pretty much what she is. Not to sound childish, but yeah. Tina Peters, they on purpose, but the text that came in, that had to be Tony. That's got to be the biggest jerk-wagon text. Like, hey, Tony, you've obviously never sat on a grand jury or seen what they can do. You're full of crap, buddy. Yeah, they could actually convict you of being so ignoramus. They could literally convict you of being stupid, Tony.
Come on, tell us how you really feel there, Jack.
Yeah, I'm just saying. And Tina Peters, man, they on purposely stayed away from the felonies. They stayed away from that because they knew it was bogus. And I don't know. I almost think it's a kiss of death for Trump to get involved because these pukes are going to keep her locked up. It's really sad, but you know what? Not real impressed with our judicial system countrywide. I mean, it's a joke. But anyway, Billy, by the way, are you sure Billy wasn't at that Meta Gala thing? I'm sure I saw him standing there with Madonna with a cigar over her.
That's why he had to take the day off. He was recovering from the Met Gala.
The shame that this guy, that's just shameless. Anyway, Jeff, I love you.
Thanks, Barney. Hey, swing by Jan's if you're in BV. Go get some good breakfast there.
Oh no, we're already headed the other way, buddy. Going to Cortez. So.
Oh, Cortez is Colorado's best kept secret.
Yeah, I don't know, buddy. When you drive a truck and you run the mountains for 38 effing years, you kind of hate everything up there. I'm just saying. I want to go to Kansas. That's where I want to go. Take a bulldozer to these mountains. My mom would kill me. She'd roll over in her grave. But love you. Take it easy.
Thank you, Barney. Always fun to hear from Barney out on the road today. We missed the Barney-Billy interaction. They would have gotten going and yelling and screaming at each other like they normally do. Thank you, Barney, for giving us a call. Bill's out today. He's celebrating his birthday. We miss him, but we got live in studio with us Tori Ganal with Rocky Mountain Voice. Will continue with the program. You're listening to the Jeff and Tori Ganal Show on 710 KNUS. It's 8 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Wednesday, May 7th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show. Wait, scratch that. Bill Thorpe out celebrating his 21st birthday.
21 years on the earth with us, and today is the day we will make a big fuss.
That's John Corvlis, producer, sitting on, running the board for us. Live in studio with us is Tori Ganal. She runs Rocky Mountain Voice. She's my co-host today. And then we're going to talk, not only, we got a lot of journalists hanging out with us today. Benito Kelty of Westward is going to join us. He's got a great piece out. Denver's encampments disappeared almost a year ago. Where are the migrants now? He's done a good job looking into this issue. He's going to join us live in studio as well. So we're having a party, I guess, in honor of Bill Thorpe, right? It's Bill's birthday party. He's just not here.
Absolutely. We're celebrating for him.
That's right. That's right. But now it's time for your morning dose of news and comment with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Good morning. 45 drizzle in Denver, expecting a high of 55 today. The grass is going to be really green after the sun comes up later this week and comes out later this week. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, the latest on Epstein and all that stuff going on. Here's Pam Bondi.
No, the FBI, the FBI, they're reviewing, there are tens of thousands of videos of Epstein with children or child porn. And there are hundreds of victims. And no one victim will ever get released. It's just the volume, and that's what they're going through right now. The FBI is diligently going through that. I haven't seen that statement, but I'll call him later and find out.
Stand by. More to come on that in the next few days, I'm sure. An early morning fire at a home in the Washington, Virginia Vale neighborhood in Denver has killed 2 people. The neighborhood is located just east of Glendale. Firefighters put the fire out relatively quickly, and the investigation is underway. Lauren Boebert on with Jeff and Tori last hour to talk about trying to get Tina Peters out of jail. And DJT weighing in on it 2 nights ago after Boebert got it going. Boebert is fighting hard for Peters, especially after Jenna Griswold exposed online passwords and broke the same law.
And yet Tina Peters is in jail because of the same thing. This is something that Jenna Griswold went after Tina heavy about, was one password being released online by someone else after an election. Not one vote was changed, not one election result was changed because of Tina's actions, and yet Jenna Griswold gave the orders to have the book thrown at her, and that's exactly what this Mesa County judge did.
9 years in prison. Well, the drive-by media, they hate talking about this. Officials from the U.S. and China will be talking trade this weekend. The wins are coming. We coming.
All I do is win, 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 no matter what. Got money on my mind.
But without further ado, the art of the deal.
Yes, and Scott Besson.
The world has been coming to the U.S., and China has been the missing piece. I was going to be in Switzerland to negotiate with the Swiss. Turns out the Chinese team is traveling through Europe, and they will be in Switzerland also. So we will meet on Saturday and Sunday. And look, we have shared interest that this isn't sustainable, as I said before, especially on the Chinese side. And 145%, 125% is the equivalent of an embargo. We don't want to decouple. What we want is fair trade.
All I do is win, 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 no matter what.
Hey, if you're going to the airport today, you need an ID. It's called an identification, maybe a driver's license or an official ID. That would help so you can travel, not your library card or maybe your Star Wars fan club card. It's crazy how that works. You can't use that either. If you're flying to Newark, expect delays. Evidently, that airport is way back behind Star Wars days.
Yeah.
It's 3 decades behind when it comes to airport technology.
Oh, easily. So I got to tell you my New York story real quick.
Yes.
So I was on a flight to Israel that got pulled back. It actually made news because we flew 3 hours there, then turned around and flew back. Now there's a lawsuit between the Israeli flight, the folks that were on the flight against the flight crew and all that stuff.
Really?
And some of the video I filmed is now part of this lawsuit. Anyways, we turned around and there's no real hotels near Newark. So if you wanted to get a hotel voucher, they had to put you on a bus that then took you an hour outside. So that was one of the problems.
Mm-hmm.
So I just decided, I'm just going to go to the United Club and just hang out. And they had free beer, and I just hung out for 24 hours waiting for the next flight to go around.
Oh, yeah,
so
I remember you
felt like
telling
the
me
guy, Tom Hanks, in that movie where he just wanders around the airport.
Right.
It's just a terrible airport, bad food, but at least the United Club had beer.
Right. Oh, man, the carpet smells.
Yes.
It's Newark.
It's Newark.
Yeah.
That's right.
And you know what's funny is you go west into New Jersey, and it's actually beautiful. So it's amazing.
I wouldn't even know.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even know.
Yeah. You
DIA is
go
not
west.
bad. Compared to all the airports out there, I can get around DIA pretty quickly, efficiently.
Really?
Do you not
not
like
a big
it?
fan anymore.
Tori,
I got
do you
spoiled
like
at
DIA?
DFW.
I love DIA. I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many places to go, so many things to check out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
Yeah, if
John,
you
we
like
might need
walking.
to pick up her mic. Tori's over there. Because I can turn on this one. All right, I think we're good now. Say it again.
I love
There we
DIA.
go.
I feel like you got so many places to go. You got all the best
Elways.
restaurants. Yeah, Elway. I've gotten food poisoning from the Elways, so maybe not Elways. You've got Snooze.
Always dealing with some issues these days.
Oh, man. If you like walking and you like space, DIA is the place. No doubt. I got spoiled. DFW is great because you can just park relatively closely to the gates. At least you used to be able to.
So we, when they first opened DIA, they allowed local pilots to come in to test out the air traffic control stuff. So like before the big jets came in, they wanted to have little local single engine pilots come in, and my dad was one of them. So we got to land at DIA before anybody else did.
Oh, cool!
And the runways are huge. So you had this big long taxi, all that. But anyways, my brothers and I were very, very proud to be the first people to use the DIA urinals.
Nice.
We're like, we're here
Smell
before
good?
everybody else.
What a claim to fame.
Yeah. Smell like new cars. That's awesome. Man, this is crazy. Here, a woman is dead after being attacked by an alligator in a Florida creek. But then the elderly man that we talked about earlier, also in Florida, and his dog were killed by a bear in southwest Florida. So you have gators and bears in Florida. Be on the lookout. R&B legend Smokey Robinson is being accused of sexual assault by 4 of his former housekeepers. The 4 women submitted a $50 million lawsuit on Tuesday alleging sexual assault, and it also names Robinson's 85-year-old wife. Man, $50 mil. Yeah, what? I don't know what's going on here. The singer is not
I mean,
responded to the
housekeepers?
lawsuit. Housekeepers.
Really?
Speaking of Tommy Boy. Housekeeping.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that?
You guys are on a movie kick today.
Yes. Tommy
we're
Boy
just
always.
inappropriate middle school boys.
Yes, you
It
need
never
to see
ends.
it, Tori.
Need sleepy. Go away.
Fat guy in a little coat.
Fat guy in a little coat. That's my
theme
favorite
song.
scene.
It's the best. It is
Benito's
the best.
wondering what he walked into.
That's right.
He's like, the Westward offices aren't this crazy.
What did you do?
In Aurora, 41 in Golden, 45 in Denver. Jeff and Tori continue. Billy is out for his birthday. Oh, yeah, it's a National Translator Day today. So
Trans Day?
Falls on
Is that what Billy's?
Translator. So,
okay.
if you don't understand Billy, you need a translator, and it falls on his birthday. So happy birthday to Billy. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
A storm system to our south will pump upslope winds into the Front Range today, tonight, and into early Wednesday, bringing more occasional chances of rain and thunder today, tonight, and tomorrow. Upper 40s and near 50 today with occasional rain, a little bit of thunder. Rain tonight, fog, lows near 40. Showers will continue Wednesday, highs near 60. Warming to the mid to upper 60s Thursday with a few showers, warmer for Friday and the weekend. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free no-obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
All right, in a second, we're going to talk with Benito Kelty of Westward. Great new piece out there. But I got to ask, Tori, your mom's Heidi Ganal, what do you do for Heidi Ganal on Mother's Day?
You try and get her to relax.
Do you try and get her to relax a little bit?
Yes. So hopefully she's not listening. I know she's in a meeting right now, so she won't hear this. But I'm taking her to get one of those Japanese scalp massages.
Oh, that'll be nice.
Yeah, so we try and get her to just chill on Mother's Day.
She's a serial entrepreneur, so she's constantly going, starting new businesses. Well, want to talk to you about a great option for all of you out there looking to really honor and celebrate your mom. Visit the Black Eyed Pea this Sunday, May 11th is Mother's Day. How about taking mom to celebrate at the Black Eyed Pea? Mother's Day specials include grilled salmon, hand-carved prime rib, the salmon and shrimp combo, and the chicken cordon bleu. Mom's sure to find a favorite with one of those, and all entrees are served up with 2 sides, fresh baked rolls, and your choice of a featured dessert. Listen to some of these desserts. Cherry cobbler or peach cobbler served with ice cream. All kicks off Mother's Day this Sunday at 10:30 at the Black Eyed Pea. Look, guys, you're not going to cook as well as Mom is, so why even try? Might as well take her to the Black Eyed Pea. We're going to have really quality food, right? It's all about maha right now, which means it's not about that processed stuff. Real quality, locally sourced food. That's what they're serving up at the Black Eyed Pea this Sunday. No matter what the occasion, Black Eyed Pea gift cards are always a great gift idea. I love everything about this restaurant. It's one of those few restaurants where the grandparents love it, you'll love it, and the kids will love it. So all 3 generations. Visit a Black Eyed Pea. There's 8 locations all along the I-25 corridor, out in Lakewood, out in Inglewood, and I think they're opening one up in Fort Collins here soon. So visit Black Eyed Pea. I know you'll love it as well. Let them do the cooking for you. Keep it in Colorado and visit a Black Eyed Pea near you. So I always love checking in on Westward. Great articles being written there. Patty Calhoun, great friend of the show. Westward rated the Jeff and Bill Show, Denver's top talk radio show. Something I'll never forget. Always appreciate that. So always checking in on Westward. Saw this great article. Whatever happened to those encampments, those migrant encampments? You remember the list of demands they had? Big encampments in downtown. Well, Benito Kelty dove into this and can give us some insight. Benito, thanks for joining the Jeff and Tori Ganal Show.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. Sad I'm missing Bill, though.
Yeah, that's right. You can get into a debate with Bill. It's funny. He's developed this reputation. People love to come on our show to see if they can debate Bill and debate him successfully. So, Benito, you're a Colorado native, huh?
I am. That's
Where
right.
are you from?
Grew up in Aurora, Colorado. Peoria Parker, just up the street. Overland High School. Yeah, really proud of it.
Yeah, I mean, it gives you insight into the changes you've probably seen in Colorado over the years.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. And this is a place that's definitely changed.
Yeah, you wrote this piece. Denver's encampments disappeared almost a year ago. Where are the migrants now? Let's talk about it. What'd you discover?
Yeah, well, kind of the first thing I discovered is nobody really has a very solid, detailed idea of, where all the migrants that came through Denver are. According to the Denver Mayor's Office, we had 43,000 since December 2022. This is when former Mayor Michael Hancock declared an emergency because, he was having to use rec centers to shelter migrants for the night. Little did Denver know that was really just going to be kind of the tip of the iceberg, that was going to be having to do that basically for a year and a half. But from that point in December 2022 to, even to now, the tally is there about 43,000 migrants came through, and about half went to other cities. About half stayed in the metro area. But the city, they kept data, but the city of Denver didn't keep track of Luis or Raul is now at this apartment in this city at this address with this job with this income. They helped them, and then the migrants went on their own. So there's no real-time data of where the roughly 20,000 that stayed in the metro area are. Nonprofits were a big part of it. So kind of the two key ones were Papagayo and Vive Wellness. And what they did was they helped put them into apartments. They gave them housing assistance, which generally includes paying rent, paying deposits, paying whatever application fee, and then getting them into that apartment. And so Papagayo and Vive Wellness will tell you, a lot of those 20,000 found housing somewhere in the metro area, either by themselves or with someone else. But again, not a detailed of we know exactly where everybody is. So, I know they're not on the street. If I drive around looking for a migrant encampment, I couldn't really find one. But a year ago, I used to be able to anytime I needed to. Here and there, you see window washers. I think still, maybe sometimes people selling roses that are Venezuelan migrants, but they're not really on the street like they were. And nobody has a solid idea where they are, but in theory, they should just all be in housing somewhere across the metro area.
Well, that's Benito Kelty with Westward. Now, Benito, you is there a sense that some of them have returned home back to their country of origin? Or, as you mentioned, about half have moved on, half are still here. What are you hearing from the immigrant community about the election of Donald Trump, Tom Homan, ICE raids, DEA? Are they taking the CBP One app home and taking the $1,000? In your reporting, maybe they're just keeping their head down. What are you hearing from those communities?
Yeah, since Donald Trump's been elected, the few Venezuelan migrants that I have talked to for reasons they've started a baseball team and they're out, or they found work and I've been able to follow up with them. For them, it's kind of the latter. They're kind of keeping their head down. I haven't heard of any stories of someone going back to Venezuela, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case, especially like you mentioned, the $1,000 offer, that the Trump administration is offering. I think it's largely, trying to keep your head down, but at the same time, it's important to realize that the city of Denver brought a lot of them into housing, last year before the election. So it's hard to kind of, delineate when you stop seeing migrants on the street. But, I haven't heard anybody say exactly I'm not doing this or going out because I'm afraid of the Trump administration. Typically the line that I hear is yeah, these are scary times. But I don't hear them say something no, I'm not going to go out. For me, from my perspective, it's just that a lot of them found their way into housing or a way to not be visible even before Trump was elected. Maybe in anticipation of Trump's election, but for me, they came in a lot sooner.
Tori Ganal has a question for you. Benito Kelty of Westward. Go ahead, Tori.
So I remember reading, maybe this was probably about a year ago now, that some of the migrants were going into the city of Denver, or I don't know who exactly paid for them, were buying out hotels or maybe abandoned apartment buildings or stuff that wasn't filled. Have you done any research on that, or found that are those places still occupied, or have those been eliminated now that people have found more permanent housing. What does that look like?
Yeah, so the hotels, there's a point where the city had as many as 10 hotels where what they had done was city council pass basically like a budget or like an allotted amount where they could buy out the rooms individually. And basically that way kind of buy out the hotel and turn them into these migrant hotels, these like shelters, where each migrant had their own room. Roughly in like from April to July of last year, the city of Denver began the process of shutting these down. And so there were like 10. You might have seen some on I-70 in Peoria. The Comfort Inn that's there was used. There's some on Tower, some on Federal and 6. But those have been shut down. Some of them are being reused as hotels. Like the one on Federal and 6, you'll see is still is now being used as a Comfort Inn or whatever it was. But like the one on Zuni and Spear, which is really well known, in a place where like there was always a migrant encampment surrounding it, you see that it does look more vacant. But either way, neither of them are being used as migrant shelters. I have seen some comments online saying, this seems like it's a migrant hotel, but the bottom line is that the city isn't funding anymore of these. It isn't buying out rooms and putting migrants in. I don't think the hotels that were there before have gone out of business, or the buildings are now dilapidated. I can't imagine it's probably easy to shift from being a migrant shelter to being a hotel again. However, the migrant hotels, they're not really still out there. There may still be Venezuelan migrants living out of hotels. I know in that Peoria and I-70 area, you will still see a lot of Venezuelan migrants. I've talked to some that are still out there. Sometimes they'll be out there with signs asking for money, washing windows. Sometimes they'll just be kind of walking around, and some live like around that hotel. There are 2 hotels there, and so you'll see that a few live there. And there's also a homeless micro community there. Anyways, that's all to say that the city shifted out of those. The buildings are still up and running as hotels mostly, but you will still see some Venezuelans in that area. Hopefully that touched on it. I was trying to...
Yeah, I wonder, is it because the city ran into financial problems that they're kind of shutting down some of these migrant hotels? Because we know there's a budget deficit. They had to cut some services in other areas. Common Sense Institute saying that the city spent somewhere north of $300 million when you look at all of the costs, education, healthcare, housing, all that, spent quite a bit of money. Or are there just fewer immigrants that they need to house, that they found alternative housing? What is the reason why you're seeing some of these migrant hotels shut down?
Yeah, so February last year, the Denver mayor announced that the city is going to have to cut recreation center hours, going to have to cut DMV hours because so much money was going towards trying to house these migrants. And it is the tune to tens of millions of dollars. Last year, I think the figure at that point had been around $40 million that the city either expected to spend within like the 6-month period or was near spending. But they couldn't afford responding to the crisis at the pace that they were, the way that they were in early 2024. So, that's unsustainable. Yeah, I suppose, financial reasons are a big part of it. The other thing, though, in the city of Denver is really proud of this, is that I think they also managed to find some kind of political solution where the migrants weren't being bused up from El Paso anymore. Because if you talk to pretty much any one of these migrants, they all tell you that their last stop was El Paso when they were rounding on the streets last year. Cheapest bus ticket on Greyhound in the city of El Paso, where the state of Texas wasn't really clear who was paying for these tickets. But the city of Denver says that in May, June, that pretty much wasn't happening anymore. That Texas, that local governments, the government in Texas was no longer paying for bus tickets, bus migrants up, and so they were no longer getting new arrivals. But what the picture looks like at the southern border, I'm not really sure. It is worth noting that for a time, the city of Denver had liaisons in the southern border. Like, it sent city staff down there in part to deter migrants from coming back up. Like, part of the message was...
Really?
Yeah, I mean, part of the message was like, we're under strain here. Think about going somewhere else. Yeah. And so they had 2 city staffers down there for a few months, with that message. And there was a time where the city of Denver, they were saying that worked. And I'm not saying that seems unlikely, but I remember when those city liaisons first came back, they were at a city council committee meeting, and the message was that this is working. That when we go down there and we tell them that, we don't have as many resources as you think, that they were seeing this trend of fewer migrants coming. So it could have been a combination that the city of Denver figured out something with whoever was busing them up from Texas to stop that. And it could have been that the city of Denver was running out of money to house them. I think either way, they would have been really hard to keep responding to the crisis that way for a long time. But when you ask, why fewer came up, I think it's just because the busing stopped.
That's Benito Kelty. He's got a new piece in Westward. Denver's encampments disappeared almost a year ago. Where are the migrants now? Look, I threw parties in high school, and I remember you would invite people, yeah, come on over. You wanted to have a good collection of friends at your party, and then all of a sudden, the word got out. In fact, too much of the word got out, and now you're having to shut the door and keep people out because I had a few hundred people show up one time at one of the parties I threw. I got in a lot of trouble for that. But I always felt like Denver puts up this big banner outside the Civic Center Park under Hancock. It says, "We heart immigrants." And then they got to send people to the party to go, but not that much. They ran into an actual practical math problem.
Yeah. And they did literally have a banner that says, "We love immigrants." Yeah, I don't think the city of Denver would deny that, too many were coming up, but they stand by, this welcoming city image.
Right.
That's the big thing for them.
Yeah. Well, that's Benito Kelty with Westward. We're going to continue our conversation. One of the aspects I found it fascinating was when you tried to connect with some of the immigrants you had messaged before via WhatsApp and no longer there responding. So we'll continue our conversation. You're listening to the Jeff and Tori Ganal Show. Bill's out. Tori's live in studio co-hosting with me on News Talk 710 KNUS. those migrant encampments? Well, Westward did a deep dive on this, and joining us live in studio is Benito Kelty. He did this piece, wrote it for Westward. My co-host today is Tori Ganal. Bill's out, but Benito, in this article, you talk about how in your previous reporting you developed friendships with a lot of the immigrants, and via WhatsApp, and then all of a sudden they're gone. Huh?
Right. Yeah. Very unfortunate. Yeah. During the time that I was, covering encampments, going to encampments, naturally, I wanted to keep in touch with people. Part of it was I was expecting this problem where this encampments weren't going to be around for too long. I expected that, I wasn't always going to have access to, people on the street that could help inform my stories. So I was taking their phone numbers, and a lot of times we communicate through WhatsApp. I mean, pretty much always. I can't think of any exceptions to that. I wrote stories about these migrants after I got their information. I write stories about the journey they took up from Venezuela. I would write stories about them trying to reunite with their family, getting jobs, getting kicked out of shelters. Over the course of the 2 years, mostly since last year, these WhatsApp numbers have gone disconnected. So you'll be in your contacts, they won't have an image anymore. They'll you'll message them, you'll see that the message doesn't go through, and it's hard to say what happened, whether or not this is they disconnected because they don't have a phone anymore, whether they're trying to keep low. Maybe everybody told them to stop talking to the media, and so they blocked me. I really don't know. That
happens to me a lot. But
right, it wouldn't be surprising. But no, I had great connections with these, with these migrants, with the Venezuelan migrants, and over time, they disconnected. One of them I remember well. His name was Raul Mendoza. And I wrote an article about him where he apologized to the city of Denver for being a Venezuelan migrant that's taking up city resources. And he kind of explained I'm sorry that, your city's losing money. We're in this desperation mode, and I appreciate the ability to understand what we're going through. But we're pretty much doing anything we can to survive. Anyways, that was a person I wrote a few articles about, and I would say towards the end of last year, wasn't able to get a hold of him anymore. So with people like that, you just wonder where they are. What happened. Maybe they were deported, maybe they did go back to their country, maybe they're still here. Hard to say, but it kind of adds to the whole mystery of just what happened to them exactly, since they came off the street.
Yeah. Do you think that has anything to do with Donald Trump, Tom Homan coming in, cracking down on these cities, this fear of their name being out there, maybe that they will get deported, that they go black? Or do you think that, like you said, it could be anything. It could be that they got deported already. It could be that they're just,
yeah,
staying under the radar.
Yeah, I wish I could speak more to their fear of the Trump administration, because I'm not exactly sure how afraid that same mass of 20,000 or 40,000 migrants who are in Denver, how they feel about the Trump administration. They'll mention that they're scared, but they won't necessarily say, I've stopped doing this or that because I'm scared of getting deported. I started covering migrants back in 2019 when I worked in the southern border in Arizona, and back then it was really hard to find a migrant to kind of hear their experiences and inform your article, and that changed in Denver in 2022 and 2023, but now it's back to the way it used to be, and so maybe that's just kind of the way that migrants, if you can kind of group them into a single population, maybe that's just the way they typically behave. But, another characteristic of them is that, they've always been willing to take risks. And so they've never been afraid of, like, saying their name. They've never been afraid of saying, where they came from, why they left. But it's hard to say. Another thing, too, about the name thing that's worth mentioning is, a lot of them have, like, 4 names. Like, they'll be like Jose Raul Mendoza Gomez. And so a lot of times they have no problem giving you just the 2 names. And so that reduces, like, the risk of getting caught. Anyways, those are all kind of the things that I wonder. I would be surprised if Trump's reelection and return to office really has no effect on them. If it, I'd be surprised if they really are just still going about their lives the same way, even with the headlines and the news that's kind of looming. But
maybe not going to nightclubs, illegal underground nightclubs.
Right, yeah. Well, and then you see that, and then it makes you wonder, maybe they really aren't, changing that. I mean, because there's hundreds of people.
I've talked to DEA agents who's like, oh, no, they'll continue. There'll be underground nightclubs this weekend. They'll just keep going. We're talking with Benito Kelty of Westward Magazine. He's got a new piece, Denver's Encampments Disappeared Almost a Year Ago. Where are the migrants now? We went down to some of the apartment complexes and interviewed some of the residents at these Aurora apartment complexes. I was struck by 2 things. One, the inter-Latin American feuding that almost kind of takes place, right? So Mexicans, they were not happy with the Venezuelans. And in fact seemed to express a lot of frustration towards them. Guatemalans didn't like the Venezuelans, and then the Venezuelans are going, it's not our fault, it's the black gangs that are the problem. It's like, you want to talk about racial finger pointing that took place. That was one thing that I noticed. Have you run in, when you're talking with these migrant encampments, do they tend to group themselves based upon nationality?
Oh, yeah. The Venezuelan grouping, it was immediately obvious. The first thing that comes to mind is I just remember how everybody, there's kind of like a chain of communication, and it seemed like if you were Venezuelan, you heard about something down the line. So like in May 2023, they showed up at Auraria campus parking garage. And I remember I kept asking them, like, why did you come here? And they said, because this friend told me. And then I asked someone else, and they'd be like, this friend told me, and this friend told me. And they were all Venezuelan. But then if you found someone who was Colombian or Peruvian, they would say something like, I just followed this group, or I heard about it. And so they kind of seemed just a little bit out of the loop. But there did seem to be, for me, it seemed obvious that that there was kind of like a tie just based off nationality. But I'd be surprised if you have if you have someone from Colombia and Peru and Venezuela walking or traveling up all the way to the U.S. border together, I'd be surprised if no bond were formed. But there was definitely a strong link based on nationality.
I'm intrigued. You have spent probably more time with folks at these encampments than anybody I've ever met before. I've gone down and done a few interviews, like I said, at these apartment complexes. What have you learned about these illegal immigrants that are coming up, these migrants? You talked about they're risk takers, naturally. I'm intrigued into what you learned about these types of folks. Are they gang members, or are they just workers trying to come up here? There's a raging national debate right now about the type of person these people are. Tell us about it.
Yeah, most of the people that I met were parents, for one. A lot of them were parents. I think almost unanimously all the people that I met were parents. Never met any gang members. That's not to say that there aren't gang members with them. Even they'll tell you that the people that we were running from in Venezuela are here with us. Like, we didn't get away from them. They'll say that themselves. But I've never met a gang member. Do people say that when they introduce themselves? But so I don't know. But anyways, a lot of them are parents, a lot of them are family. A lot of them, the jobs are very diverse just among them. I remember meeting people who told me that they were aviation engineers, they were cops, they were construction workers, they were maids. So a lot of them had all these different jobs. Huge variety of age too. Some of them were in their 20s, some of them were in their 40s. I guess none of them were elderly. None of them were like 50, 60. Yeah, they came from all different parts of Venezuela They all had different kind of stories of how they came up. For a long time, I was hearing, before I was really going into this and came and talking to people, I was hearing that the tale was that they would walk all the way up. A surprising amount seemed to have had some ability to like bus or even fly to certain parts, and then continue the journey from there. A lot of them really disliked Mexico. A lot of them related to me like what sounded like kidnapping or like extortion. A lot of them complained about the police in Mexico. But if you ask them like, what were the worst parts? A lot of times you'd hear Mexico. A lot of times you would hear like South Central America around the Darien Gap. But they said they loved Americans. Americans always treated them really well. The people here were nice. I would say later on, maybe now and then you'd hear some people relating experiences of people yelling at them. But for the most part, they were really happy with the treatment they were getting from Americans.
That's Benito Kelty of Westward. We're going to continue our conversation with him. He's got a new piece. Denver's encampments disappeared almost a year ago. Where are the migrants now? This population is well positioned to quickly self-resolve episodes of homelessness with the intervention of move-in assistance for market-rate housing, the city said in its newcomer playbook. Well, whatever ended up happening to them? We'll continue this conversation. You're listening to the Jeff and Tori Ganal Show as Bill is out on 710 KNUS.
Oh, yeah, sure, yeah.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Bill's out today. Tori Ganal sitting in as co-host of the Jeff and Tori Ganal Show. We have Benito Kelty with Westward live in studio. He's got a new piece. Denver's encampments disappeared almost a year ago. Where are the migrants now? Now, there's a lot of folks you talk about in this. One being the Highland Moms, right? Let's talk about the Highland Moms. Who are they first?
Yeah, the Highland Moms. So Highland Mommies had kind of already existed as like a group and a Facebook group in the past. But when the migrant crisis happened in Denver, they used their connections and their Facebook group to organize like donation drives. And they formed the Highland Moms as like a Venezuelan migrant support group. Eventually, they took on like tasks like helping them find jobs, helping them find apartments. They hosted like fundraisers, pop-up businesses. I mean, this group has had their hand in pretty much like every story that I did with Venezuelan migrants. Sometimes I'd be writing a story about them, and I'd be like, "How did you hear about this or meet this person?" And they'd be like, "Oh, well, this group of moms introduced me." I'd be like, "It's the Highland Moms." And then Mayor Johnston famously referenced them in his Tiananmen Square comment.
Yeah.
He was like, you look at someone like the Highland Moms, they'll be here to support me or they'll back me up.
That was basically when he was threatening a civil war.
Right, yeah.
And federal law enforcement.
Yeah, and he said Highland Moms has my back in that case, and I think they're fully aligned with the Denver mayor, but yeah, they've been pretty visible just in the whole migrant crisis scene in Denver. Yeah,
and that's Benito Kelty, who's with us from Westward. Letting us know where the migrant encampments went. Mr. Kelty, I'd have to ask, do you think this is a combination of hide and seek, just moving on to someplace that's less intense, or also with getting help like with the Highland Moms, kind of like friendlies, taking them in and keeping them off the radar?
Yeah, it's the case that I think they found somewhere where they can be, like they have apartments, so there's no need to be out in the open, and there's not necessarily like anybody telling the government or the federal government that they're at these apartments, right? In the city of Denver, they have a policy of not sharing information with federal law enforcement, and nonprofits don't share that information. So, I mean, from my perspective, it looks like, if you're a Venezuelan migrant who came in the last 2 years to Denver, you have an apartment, you have a job by now, why go out and risk anything? So it could be hide and seek, and kind of in the sense that, they're not all in like a group anymore, but they're in, individual housing, individual units. But I don't think it's the case that the Highland Moms are housing any Venezuelan migrants in their place anymore. There might be a few here and there, but the amount would be negligible. I mean, it would just be a few. I think it's mostly they just have their own place where they can feel safe.
But bottom line, probably still here.
Oh yeah, I would say that's definitely the case that Venezuelan migrants are here, and then just based on my coverage, I would say it's the case that you probably still have like thousands. The mayor, the Denver mayor's office will tell you that there's still thousands in the metro area somewhere.
That's Benito Kelty with Denver Westward. Check out his article. Denver encampments disappeared almost a year ago. Where are the migrants now? You can follow him on X at Benningen, BENNINDEN. Give him a follow over there on X. He's covering a lot of the stuff that is part of the national debate taking place. Benito, thanks for taking time to join the Jeff and Tori Ganal Show.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, thank you for having me on.
All right, we'll continue. You're listening to Jeff and Tori on 710 KNUS. It's 9 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Wednesday, May 7th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show. News Talk 710 KNUS. Just wrapping up a really interesting conversation with Westward. Benito Kelty basically telling us, oh, yeah, the migrants are still here.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, that was kind of the bottom line, right?
Yeah.
They're just not in encampments anymore.
They're just out there hiding, which, like I told you, I mean, I live right next to an apartment complex full of them. And there's like 25 cars out on the street, all getting taken apart like a chop shop. There's the sheriff and the cops are on it all the time. But man, I mean, like they've got 15 people to one apartment. That's what we've heard. Really? Mm-hmm. Wow. 1-bedroom apartment, 15 people.
Yeah.
So they're out there.
The encampments have not gone away. Illegal immigrants here, they've just kind of gone into different places. But what was interesting to me, too, is that they're not really all that afraid yet.
I was
Tom
shocked
Holland.
by that.
Right, because if you listen to liberal media, it's like, we're back into Germany where everyone's going to be asked their papers in 1935s and how terrible. But I think he brought some balance in going, look, these are people that naturally take risks anyways.
For sure.
They've walked across 7 countries.
They don't care.
Yeah, right. Like, literally, Tom Homan's going to have to take them home.
Yeah. I mean, even the fact that he was like, yeah, they willingly give me their names. Like, they're out there. They're telling me their whole story. I was really shocked by that. Like, if I was an illegal immigrant, I mean, like I was telling you, I'm a rule follower. I'd be like, keep me out of the media. Here's my fake name. I don't want to get caught by Tom Homan, but to each their own.
There you go. So that voice you're hearing is Tori Ganal with Rocky Mountain Voice. Bill's out today celebrating his 21st birthday, I think. Right, John Corbliss.
21 glorious, glorious years, but stacked with about 54 years of wisdom. And today we will make the fuss. Happy birthday, Mr. Thorpe. Glad to be in your seat right now.
That's right. That's John Corbliss running the board for us this morning on the Jeff and Tori Ganal Show. We've got a lot to talk this hour, including a lawmaker yesterday down at the floor of the House of Representatives, or I believe it's the Senate actually, saying that he worships trans Jesus, all while they're writing a law that essentially says, thou shalt not misgender. What are we talking about? And then there's a new website called hecheated.org. And no, it's not one of those reality shows that captures the cheating taking place. This is actually a list you definitely don't want to be on. This is a list of dudes cheating by competing in women's sports. Wow, we got a lot to talk about. But now it's time for your morning dose of news and comment with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Good morning. It's hump day. It's 45 degrees. Drizzle in Denver. It's starting to break up a little bit. Expecting a high of 55 today. The 710 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, an early morning fire at a home in the Washington, Virginia Vale neighborhood in Denver has killed 2 people. Firefighters put the fire out in about 30 minutes, but the house was full of smoke and unable to get to the 2 people in time. The neighborhood is located just east of Glendale, and the investigation is underway. Lauren Boebert on with Jeff and Tori last hour, in for Billy to talk about trying to free Tina Peters, and DJT posting about it and her jail time on Truth Social 2 days ago.
Blake
Boebert is fighting hard for Peters, especially after Jenna Griswold exposed online passwords and broke the same law.
And yet Tina Peters is in jail because of the same thing. This is something that Jenna Griswold went after Tina heavy about, was one password being released online by someone else after an election. Not one vote was changed, not one election result was changed because of Tina's actions, and yet Jenna Griswold gave the orders to have the book thrown at her, and that's exactly what this Mesa County judge did.
And she's serving 9 years in prison. James Comer said Tuesday all the Epstein files may be missing. AG Pam Bondi.
No, the FBI, the FBI, they're reviewing, there are tens of thousands of videos of Epstein with children or child porn. And there are hundreds of victims. And no one victim will ever get released. It's just the volume, and that's what they're going through right now. The FBI is diligently going through that. I haven't seen that statement, but I'll call him later and find out.
And the lame brain media, they hate talking about this. Officials from the U.S. and China will be talking trade this weekend. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent on Fox last night.
The world has been coming to the U.S., and China has been the missing piece. I was going to be in Switzerland to negotiate with the Swiss. Turns out the Chinese team is traveling through Europe, and they will be in Switzerland also. So we will meet on Saturday and Sunday. And, look, we have shared interest that this isn't sustainable, as I said before, especially on the Chinese side. And, 145%, 125% is the equivalent of an embargo. We don't want to decouple. What we want is fair trade.
All I do is win, 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 no matter what. Got money on my mind.
The art of the deal. I don't do it for the money. I've got enough, much more than I'll ever need. I do it to do it.
And then there's Mike Pence. He likes the cheap crap from China. Who cares if they're ripping us off?
He said that cheap goods was not a part of the American dream. Well, I'm somebody who spent almost my entire life in public service. We lived on our paycheck while we raised 3 kids and put 3 kids through college. Cheap goods are a big part of it. I think we ought to be candid about that.
All I do is lose, no matter what. I pump it 7 times.
We want is reciprocal tariffs, okay? It's guys like him that'll grow poverty, Mike Pence. Hey, if you're going to the airport today, you need what they call an ID, identification. Maybe a driver's license or an official ID that you get from the DMV. Not your old Blockbuster card.
What do you think? I got my Starfleet ID. I mean, that kind of looks like a Space Force ID. You think maybe that'll slide?
You know what? Billy would love that, a Starfleet. Why don't you leave that on the desk by the board for Billy on his birthday? So Starfleet, what is that exactly, John?
That is Star Trek. Every
Gotcha.
day of the year except for the 4th of May.
So you're a Star Trek guy. I love it. Hey, John, if you're flying to Newark, expect delays because once again, I mean, this place is falling apart. That airport's technology is 3 decades behind. It's 44 in Aurora, 41 in Golden, 45 in Denver. Don't forget the Nuggets and the Thunder tonight in OKC, Game 2 of the second round NBA playoffs. They try to up their lead to 2-0. Jeff and Tori continue.
Housekeeping?
She'll come back in an hour.
Housekeeping, you want towel?
Olson News Talk 710 KNUS.
Although weaker, the upslope will continue, so we'll still have some chances of showers, a few thunderstorms. Temperatures today, mid to upper 50s and a lot of clouds. Watch out for some areas of fog early. Temperatures will be down to near 40 tonight with any showers or thunderstorms over by evening.
What's up,
Warming
Marky?
up to near 70 and partly sunny tomorrow.
Hey, wait,
An
wait a
isolated
minute, wait a
late-day
minute.
thunderstorm. Lower 70s
before you
Friday,
continue.
late-day thunderstorms. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free no-obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Bill's out today celebrating his 21st birthday, so Tori Ganal's with us with Rocky Mountain Voice. Now, we've been talking lots of stuff today. The Alien Enemies Act and Supreme Court decisions. Tina Peters, Lauren Boebert joined us. How about immigrants and what happened to the encampments? Benito Kelty was with us in Westward. Now I want to talk about a speech that was given yesterday at the floor of the Senate in Colorado here that is going ultra viral. Now, you know, we're all debating this House Bill 1312, this crazy transgender rights bill. I put that in quotations because it is going to, it's a compelled speech violation. It threatens parental rights. It's wants to force everybody to abide by whatever somebody identifies as, and you can be brought before a government tribunal if you don't. So it's a crazy bill. That's why it's made national attention. Anyways, this lawmaker goes down to the state capitol, and they're debating it yesterday. And John Corbett, let's play the audio of this state senator.
Email, I'm going to end it here, says, basically, I'm accountable to Almighty God because I'm standing up for equality. That my decisions one day, I will stand before him and be accountable. Well, this is what I believe. You ever seen that movie, Talladega Nights? And you see that section where they're talking around the dinner table and they're talking about what their favorite version of Jesus is. All right, baby Jesus. I love baby Jesus. And the guy goes, well, I love Leonard Skinner Jesus when angels are behind him and the choir is singing and he's playing Freebird. Well, my day of judgment, I might be standing in front of trans Jesus. I don't know.
Trans Jesus. That is State Senator Chris Colker. He represents the Centennial area. Senator Chris Colker talking about how he will stand before trans Jesus. Meanwhile, they're down there writing laws that essentially says thou shalt not misgender. So if there's ever evidence that the left isn't anti-religion, they're just a different religion. Here's a good example of that. Trans Jesus, Senator Chris Colker talking about that. What are your thoughts on that, Tori Ganol?
Unreal. I mean, have we lost our minds? Yeah. We have. I know the answer to that question. Right. I listened to all 8 hours of testimony last week for this bill, and
really?
Yes, I can't believe it. My brain was melting by the end.
8 hours of the senators and folks debating that, or personal testimony?
Personal testimony.
Wow.
But don't worry, there was lots of comment from the senators, it was the senators. Judicial hearing.
I would hope so. I'm sorry. This is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
The only trans Jesus I can think of is the one on the Transfiguration. And honest to goodness, a lot of people better be taking a look at the book of Romans, chapter 1, around about the neighborhood of 21, because they knew God, but they did not see him for who he was or give thanks to him, but they think he turned futile, and they pushed the truth down to buy a lie. I'm sorry, that just sets me right off. I can't even... It makes me want to spit on the air.
That's John Corbett sitting in, running the board for Bill Thorpe. John, you're not wrong about it.
No.
So 8 hours of testimony, what'd you learn?
I learned that, well, one, it still went through. So it doesn't really matter that there was over 700 people signed up to testify, most of which didn't even get heard. It just doesn't. They're going to make the decisions anyways. And obviously they don't care about religious freedom whatsoever. I mean, there was pastors, there was people sharing their own personal experience with losing custody of their kids. I mean, it was...
Do you know why those decisions are made ahead of time? Have you figured it out yet?
I mean, it sounds like you got an answer for me.
Yeah, I came to the same conclusion you did.
Yeah.
Same, because I ran lobbying teams down at the Colorado State Capitol for years. Yes.
Don't you think?
Well, no, to a point, yeah. They are. That's exactly. So they're delivery folks. That's what your lawmaker is. Your lawmaker is not an independent thinker that drafts bills and comes up with ideas on how to improve their constituents. That's not who they are. They're delivery people.
Is to go look at the supporters, the lobbying list.
Yes.
That's my favorite thing to go do. And when you see one of the other bills that I wrote about for Rocky Mountain Voice was the dietitian nutritionist bill. And you go look at all of the lobbyists for the bill, and it's like every hospital organization in Denver. It's the like food banks, and you're like, why do these people care about whether a dietitian can practice or not? It's the same thing with this bill. You go look at all the people that are lobbying it for it, and you're like, wait a second. Wait.
No, this is written by the ACLU.
Mm-hmm.
And it's served up to the lawmakers. So here's how the system works, okay? Someone raises their hands that lives in a community and says, I'm willing to run for office. The ACLU, Planned Parenthood, hospital lobbyists, whatever. They all show up on these people's doorsteps and say, well, we're happy to give to your campaign.
You know, I think that's honestly maybe the problem with Republicans in a way is we don't have groups backing us. I mean, it's not a problem. I think that's probably integrity.
Yeah.
But you know, we don't have ACLU knocking on our door being like, I'll give you $1 million to run for this position if you pass through this bill.
Yep. And they can't do a quid pro quo, so they can't say, elect you and pass this. But what they do is they write a nice big check to Tori Ganal and say, all right, Tori, run for office. Here's your $1 million check, as you mentioned. You get into office, knock on your door the next day, you know, Tori, we really need some help in this upcoming legislative session. In fact, you don't even need to write the bill.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the bill as it's written already for you. Then you go and, because I remember talking to Hugh McKean one time and going, Hugh, we were in the middle of a big debate over, I think it was parental rights or comprehensive sex education or something like that. We were down there fighting hard on this stuff. And I go, Hugh, who do you call when you want to negotiate an amendment? Like, okay, we don't like this bill, but let's see if we can get some of the worst parts out of it. All right, can we take this? Who do you call? He goes, I call the ACLU.
Oh.
Because these people, because what you learn is that the people that are elected down there are literally some of the dumbest people we have ever found.
Yeah.
Like you could pick anybody off the street and they would do a better job. And so you're sitting there going, how did Joe Schmo, who's a total dope, write this bill with all these like legal opt-outs and all this? He didn't write this bill. He could barely tie his shoe. And yet somehow he showed up with a bill. So you're learning what I learned too, because you sit there going, something stinks here. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense. Then you see how the system really works. And
as
Republicans,
the kids say, the math ain't mathin'.
I love it. Bill Armstrong used to say, I don't know what's going on, but I smell sulfur.
Oh.
So, same thing. So that's who's behind these bills. You have this guy saying trans Jesus. What I've always found fascinating, Tori Ganal sitting in for Bill Thorpe, Tori Ganal's with Rocky Mountain Voice, is like Colorado used to be like the center place of evangelicalism. Colorado Springs, big major ministries, and they got to pass what they wanted to pass. And that's totally changed. Mm-hmm. And it changed deliberately. You've read the blueprint, you see all this, and now you're in politics, you kind of see how the whole system works. But it really is a war. I mean, it's a battle over ideas with very highly funded special interest groups.
Absolutely. I mean, you've got Focus on the Family, you've got Young Life down there, you've got Truth and Liberty, and I don't think that they've gone silent. Yeah. But I do think that the Democrat voices outpower them by a lot. Mm-hmm. And, I think that the thing that the left does really well is organization and messaging. And that's something that we in Colorado on the right are not good at, which is a big reason why we started Rocky Mountain Voice. We need messaging. Yep. We need to put a voice behind the Republican, well, obviously conservative voices, and a little bit in the center too, because look, a lot of Colorado is in the middle. How do we reach those people? How do we sell them on our message? They need a voice of reason.
That's Rocky Mountain Voice. You should join them, RockyMountainVoice.com, RockyMountainVoice.com. They're bringing out Eric Trump here.
Yeah.
Talk about that event.
I can't wait. The Mountain Majesty Gala, June 21st, Golden, Colorado. Just going to be a celebration of the movement, everything we've done here, where Colorado is going. I like to say this is a huge turning point in our state right now. We either go forward or we take 10 steps back. And I think this gala will be a moment in time where we will look back and say, look what we did and look where we're going. And I think Eric Trump gets that. He's been at the core of it. So I'm excited to hear what he has to say and really activate the grassroots here in Colorado, get them excited about what we have going on.
Yeah. That's Tori Ganal with Rocky Mountain Voice. We're going to continue this conversation. By the way, somebody texted in, have that state senator mention trans Muhammad and see what reaction he gets. I mean, that's a good point.
It is.
Right.
It's like it's not equal, right?
Well, I mean, one religion tends to be a lot more tolerant. I brought this up. I was talking to a former Denver Post reporter who is gay, by the way, and we were having this conversation about some comments that were made at the Western Conservative Summit a long time ago. Anyways, I was pointing out to him, I go, the LGBTQ movement has only taken place in historically Christian countries. There's no LGBTQ movement in China, in Muslim countries, in Russia, or anything like that. In historically Christian countries where you have a tolerant population, you have an LGBTQ movement. You don't get that anywhere else. And he was like, yeah, you're right.
It's a really good point.
So we're talking about a state senator who was mentioning trans Jesus from the floor of the state Senate in this debate of House Bill 2513-12, talking about how he worships trans Jesus, all while passing a law that says thou shalt not misgender. You want to talk about intolerance? Look at the radical left. All right, coming up, I want to talk about this website, hecheated.org. That's a website you don't want to be on. It has nothing to do with infidelity. It has to do with guys that are stealing scholarships and awards from women. But I want to talk to you about our friends over at Advanced Hair Restoration. For many of us, it might be happening. Your hair's thinning out, your crown's disappearing. Maybe hair loss has you feeling your identity's lost altogether. Well, I got good news for you. It's an incredible yet simple one-day treatment that starts growing your own natural hair the very next day, and it's guaranteed to grow for life. It's the Advanced FUE from Advanced Hair. Look, we've all seen the pills and lotions that come with monthly subscriptions. They help retain what you have, but what if what you want is your own natural hair permanently in specific areas? From Advanced Hair's state-of-the-art facilities to world-class Dr. Tanya Pauls, it's not maybe your hair will regrow. It's guaranteed that your new hair will grow. You decide how much, how thick, and where. It's why Advanced Hair is the winner of Westward's Best of Denver. For your free consultation, $250 off, and 250 free hair grafts. Call 720-459-HAIR. That's 720-459-HAIR, or visit advancedhair.com. That's advancedhair.com. All right, we'll continue. Tori Ganal filling in for Bill Thorpe. You're listening to The Jeff and Tori Show on 710 KNUS. Welcome back to the Jeff and Tori Ganal Show. Yep, that's because Bill's out today celebrating his birthday. A very happy birthday to Bill Thorpe. We miss you, Billy. We'll get you back tomorrow. By the way, Stephen Tubbs is going to be with us tomorrow. Stephen is filling in Saturday for John Caldera. So if you tune in from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. on 710 KNUS this Saturday, will hear Stephen Tubbs' voice back.
That will be fun.
Dude, he is crushing it.
He is awesome. I will tell you what. He's on point.
So he has invited me into this little DEA Citizens Academy, so I get to run around with fake guns and stuff and act like I'm a DEA agent. But
wear the hat. Wear the hat. The hat will work. You and Chuck Norris, man. Wear the hat, you Ranger.
I'm having so much fun with it and realize I made the wrong career choice because being a DEA agent is so cool. And these are the same guys that busted that illegal underground club in Colorado Springs. So I get to hang out with those guys. Stephen Tubbs is the man, and he's going to be back this Saturday, 7 to 9 a.m., filling in for John Caldera. And he's going to be with us tomorrow on some latest updates that are coming from the DEA. So not going to want to miss this. So I came across this new website. So they built a website of a list of all the girls that had missed out on championships, scholarships, trophies, stuff like that. So now they're launching an alternative side to this whole issue about men competing in women's sports, and it's called hecheated.org. Okay? A record of males who have robbed female athletes of success and opportunities in sports and the organizations who have helped them do so. I've always felt this way about these guys.
I love it. Shame them. Put them on the list.
Exactly.
They want to dox us. I'm not saying we go dox them, but the least we can do is put them on a list.
Well, and it's a list that you should be shamed for being on, because we're not talking about you competing against girls in chess,
right,
or debate club or whatever it might be. These are guys that are on the light end, stealing awards and scholarships and stuff like that. And then on the scary end, slamming footballs or volleyballs into women's faces, breaking their noses, shoving them to the ground in basketball games. These are real bullies.
Yeah. I want to know what would happen if a girl went and competed in the NFL.
Actually competed at a level to where they were taking away stuff, right? Or do you think competing at the level to where they're
just not?
Yeah,
it wouldn't happen.
Right,
it wouldn't. But
I couldn't compete in the NFL.
Yeah, I couldn't either. Maybe that was a bad example, but it's not the same. And hate to say it, but women are just built differently. It's just different, and I don't want to get a volleyball slammed in my face.
Well, even with the military, there are standards for women. There are standards for men. And it's not a slam on women. It's, hey, we get it, understand, come on with it. And those women bring their A game. They bring their A plus game. So to have this type of thing happen in a sport where a lot of these women have been doing it since 3, 4, 5 years old,
You work your whole life to get this award, and then you get it taken away from you.
And scholarships are lost over this.
Yeah.
There's a systematic problem with that, and how anybody can sit there and look at themselves in the mirror and be proud of anything like that because they took an opportunity from someone who worked their entire life to get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me of, it doesn't seem much different than a middle school kid competing in a third grader's, sport. Right? It's just unfair. You're bro, you're built differently. You got a total advantage here. And you just came in here and you just, bullied everybody else on the field.
Reverse it even into a academic. You're not going to put a college student up against a middle schooler. Yeah. It's not going to be...
It's basic fairness stuff. Now, these guys get on this list, and they're already starting to put it on here. So here's an example. A trans-identifying male playing girls' high school basketball, Rose Johnson, injured a female opponent from Leland and Gray High School in a collision during a 2023 match. As a result, the girl was not able to return to play for the remainder of the game. So these guys get put on this list. It could result in some lost opportunities, some shame. Are we shaming people and harming their futures by putting this list called hecheated.org together? That's what the left's going to say, Tori.
Yeah, absolutely. But what about the shame for taking away a scholarship from a top swimmer or a top volleyball person in school? It's like, I don't know. It's just messy and it's unfair, and it could end up in a serious injury, lawsuits. I mean, it's messy. Yeah. And
I totally agree with you, and I think these guys should be publicly shamed. I think they should be called out because, look, there's ways to move things through a social culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of them is not legally. I mean, you can, obviously, I think there's Title IX violations, all that stuff. But when there's public shame, too, that comes with doing something, particularly harming or taking away opportunities for girls, that's going to do stuff to turn this around. I want to bring up the last election. The most impactful ad against Kamala Harris by Donald Trump, do you remember this one? Had to do with Kamala Harris talking about how she wanted taxpayers to pay for sex change operations for illegal aliens that had been arrested. So criminal illegal aliens were going to get sex change operations paid for by taxpayers, right? And the left's going, well, you're just mean to trans people. And no, the point being, you had somebody that was clearly out of touch with reality.
Yeah.
That's why Donald Trump ran that ad. Where you're going, one, we're $36 trillion in debt. This is where we think we're going to spend the money. But two, why are we paying for they came here illegally and they're criminals. And now we're going to, so it's like you're so out of touch with reality that I'm going to use this against you to showcase the fact that you're a lunatic. In this case, when you create a website like hecheated.org, which is what we're talking about, hecheated.org, you're now starting to create that social pressure that these people are out of touch with reality. They're harming other people. We can bring up Title IX cases and go through the whole legal process, but I sure as hell hope your name, if you're injuring girls in sports as a dude, ends up on that list, and jobs don't want to hire you, and you lose out on your scholarship opportunities because school's like, I don't want this person here. They're clearly insane. So, it creates that social pressure. I think it drives the agenda forward, and I appreciate it. Let's go to the phone lines. Jay Sterling. Good morning, Jay. You're on the Jeff and Tori Ganal show.
Good morning. I want to say something. I think we have to look to the higher power. I mean, these people need to have their head examined, and they need a psychiatric, whatever you want to call it, for them to allow men to play in women's sports. We need to look up higher to the leaders that are allowing this to happen. The people that are above saying, yeah, it's okay.
That would be like the NCAA, these different CHASA here in Colorado that allows that to happen.
But we need to look up to the people in power of that particular school or sport.
Yeah. Jay, I agree with you, and I've raised this question. We had Michelle Chandler.
Yeah, Michelle Chandler.
She was
came
on
out
our
with an
show.
article about her yesterday.
Yeah, we had her on the show the other day, and I raised this question to her: why is it up to a woman to put her knee into the back of a dude for 20 minutes till the police came? Where were the men?
Right.
That's the question I've always raised about this trans stuff. Like, if your daughter got her face smashed in by a volleyball because a dude slammed it into her face.
Where are the dads?
Where are the dads?
I'm sorry, but if that happened to my daughter, I would.
Well, I'll tell you. Let me say something. I want your opinion. So, therefore, I think everybody's scared because the way things seem to be going, if you stand up for your own family members or your own whatever, if you stand up for what is right, they try to go after you.
True. Yeah. But I think that's the great thing about this list is now that's
a way to stand up.
A way to stand
up.
up.
Yeah, you don't have to take the kid out into the parking lot and throw an elbow or anything like that, but you can put his name on a list. I mean, there was a time where if there was a guy beating up girls, the other boys would step in the high school,
Back in,
dads,
step in.
that type of
Absolutely
thing.
we did. Absolutely we did. I mean, that was just our humanity. That's how we grew up. And a guy took pride in himself for standing up for what was wrongdoing. Anything that was wrongdoing, other guys would that's it. You're not going to do something evil, wrong, whatever have you. And now it's turned into I don't even know. You got better terminology than I do.
No, I think that's a big missing piece here. Riley Gaines talks about it all the time. Like, it took other women to finally stand up. And where were the guys this whole time going, we're not going to allow you to take away, steal things from girls. We're not going to allow you to injure girls during these sports. And finally, maybe some guys will step up. But I think that's symptomatic of a larger problem we have where we're not empowering men to be men, especially when they're young.
No, that is absolutely true. But a man cannot bear a child. So we men stand up for whatever, because they can do something that we can't, and they can do something that we can't. And that's common sense.
Jay, you're exactly right. I appreciate the call. Jay from Sterling checking in. So the website, again, hecheated.org, hecheated.org. I want to talk to you about our good friends at the Colorado Farm Bureau. Whether you pulled out your skis or snowmobiles this last winter, it was a great year for winter fun, but the snow means even more to the good people in Colorado agriculture, and I want you to know that our state's farmers and ranchers are doing their part to protect our future water resources. We've all got to make it work in Colorado. If you've ever been down to the state capitol, all those paintings down there are all about water. That's because water's gold here, and the people of Colorado agriculture always have conservation, efficiency, and reuse top of mind when it comes to water use. As the metro area continues to grow, Colorado Farm Bureau leads talks with state policymakers about preserving water for all areas of the state as pressure on the water system grows. It's going to take all of us to find a solution. My friends at the Colorado Farm Bureau are leaders in water conservation and water policy. They understand how to balance water for crops and water for families, and they're doing more with less. You can do your part. I recommend you join and become a member today. Go to coloradofarmbureau.com. That's coloradofarmbureau.com to hang out with the good people there and help support the good work that they're doing. All right, we've got some more to talk about, but we're up against a break here, so we'll get to that. Tori Ganal filling in for Bill Thorpe. Bill out celebrating his birthday today. He'll be back tomorrow, along with Stephen Tubbs. He'll be joining us as well. You're listening to the Jeff and Tori Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Bill's out and Tori Ganal's live in studio. We got another caller. Let's go to Nick in Denver. Good morning, Nick. You're on with Jeff and Tori.
Good morning. Just a couple of comments. I think that people who still have a functioning brain, who have been afraid to speak out, we need to get rid of our fears and stand for what we believe in. The other side has been so successful because, as you mentioned before, they're much better at messaging and getting the message out, and we need to do the same because there are plenty of people out there who believe in common sense ideas. They're just afraid to be to stand up.
Oh, Nick, you're exactly right. This is what I remind people. We're a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. So if you don't like it, well, the only thing that's going to change are the people.
Exactly.
You're the one that's got to step up. And I understand it's really hard in these places right now to get elected. All right, I'm not sure Republicans can field a statewide candidate to win here soon, but there's other ways. Part of being smart in politics is finding ways to be relevant, even if you can't necessarily get the office you want. So can you run for city council? Look at what Danielle Jurinsky has done with a city council seat. She has become a national leader against Venezuelan gangs from a city council seat. So, we might not be in the governor's office as Republicans, but we can sure make a difference with these smaller seats. It's just going to require people to step up.
I just think that people are too many people are afraid of being criticized and put down. Forget about that. Just forge forward. Be like George Patton. Just keep moving forward.
Nick, I think you described the Ganal family very, very well. Nick, great call. Thanks so much. So speaking of that, Tori Ganal's live in studio. Tori, Rocky Mountain Voice. Remind people again what Rocky Mountain Voice does.
Rocky Mountain Voice is your go-to conservative news source. We aggregate, we write original content. We're covering all of the news stories that you don't hear out there by the traditional media. A big part of what we're doing too is this push for new media, social media, podcasts, even pushing out radio to maybe a different generation than is used to it. So go check it out. We post stories every day. We've really hit a stride on social, so check out our videos there. And if you want to write for us, if you want to be a part of the movement, we're a citizen-led journalist site. So if you have something to say, we love to post it.
And without any ads, you can subscribe for free. This was all driven by the Ganal family and the great work that you and your mother, Heidi, are doing there. And then you do a little, almost like daily updates, Instagram videos, right?
Yeah, so we have the Mountain Minute podcast. So that is an actual podcast we post, YouTube, Rumble, anywhere you listen to podcasts. It's a 3-minute rundown of the daily news. And then we break that down even shorter into 90-second clips on social media. We've had tons of them go viral in the last couple of weeks with everything going on with HB 1312. People are waking up and people are mad about it.
Drop Channel 9. Don't even turn it on. Don't even follow those guys on social media. Ignore it. We all know it's progressive drivel that they're doing over there. And you're not going to get quality news, unfortunately, with it. And I've talked to people in leadership in the state that are like, we don't even talk to Channel 9 anymore. It's not even worth it. You need quality news sources. Rocky Mountain Voice is a great place for that. Go to RockyMountainVoice.com. That's RockyMountainVoice.com. Was this your first time co-hosting a show, Tori?
My first time on the radio.
You did great.
Thank you.
Didn't she, though? You were smooth as can be. That was awesome.
My mom is real happy that I'm actually putting my broadcast journalism degree into action today.
And then your mom's going to be filling in for Dave Caplis coming up soon, right?
Yep, this afternoon. So.
Is it this afternoon?
Yes.
So Tori's on 710 KNUS. Heidi's on with Dan Caplis on a different station.
Mother and daughter.
Full
day. Through. Right on. On with it then.
There you go. What did they say? The apple doesn't fall far from the tree?
Yeah,
right?
When I walked in, someone pointed me out right away and said, "You're Heidi Ganal's daughter. You look just like her."
You do. I was just telling Blake Olson about that. You two are dead ringers.
Yeah, I'm the blonde version.
So that's Tori Ganal. Go to RockyMountainVoice.com. Be a part of the great work that they're doing. They're bringing out Eric Trump here. It's nice to get a Trump out here in Colorado. I invited him. I had the dad, President Trump, in 2016.
I
Had
was
Don Jr. Were you?
Mm-hmm. I was.
You were
That was
probably
my
like
actually
middle
my,
school, right?
I was in college.
Were you in college?
I was in college, but that was my honestly like the start. My very first political event that I had ever been to. It was great. I remember Lila Rose was there.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
That was like
Eric Metaxas.
Yes.
Phil Robertson from Duck Dynasty.
Yes.
That was one of the more fun summits we ever had.
It was a blast.
Ben Shapiro. But go back to them. Ben Shapiro was not a fan of Donald Trump.
No.
Got up and said some nasty words about him.
I do remember that. I actually just got to hang out with Ben Shapiro and you at the Turning Point inauguration party.
Gala.
Yeah.
That was fun. Well, Tori Ganal's doing great work. You can listen to Heidi later today, filling in for Dan Caplis, the Ganal family, making a difference out there. And then go eat at GQ Barbecue, which is run by your stepfather, Jason Ganal.
Got the whole gang. Just support the Ganals.
Right. Support they're doing great work. Well, you did fantastic. Thank you so much. Billy will be back tomorrow. Stephen Tubbs is going to join us. We'll have a ton of fun. Back tomorrow on the Jeff and Bill Show. You're listening to Denver's news talk leader, 710 KNUS. See you tomorrow.